Great. So we have our CalRecycle staff, and let's see. We've got 12 commissioners. So if you see anybody's missing, please let them know. I did hear from Commissioner Vice Chair Valle that he's got something that came up with the county. He may not join us till 9, unfortunately. And then, unfortunately, Commissioner Kalpikoff has a family emergency, and he may have to miss today. But he said thumbs up on the report. He'd be happy to support it with whatever recommendations we all come up with. So, good morning, commissioners. Welcome to our 25th meeting of the Statewide Commission on Recycling Markets and Curbside Recycling. This will be our last meeting before we turn in our report July 1st to the legislature and Cal EPA. And this is the meeting where we literally wrap up the report and finish it and decide how we're going to disseminate it and talk about it, etc. Our plan today is that we really won't need all 4 hours. That is my hope. We've done a lot of work on this report, and so I'll go ahead and start by establishing a quorum. So we'll go ahead and read off our commissioners, starting with myself, Heidi Sanborn, Chair from the National Stewardship Action Council. Commissioner Vice Chair Valle is not here, I believe. He is going to be joining us around 9 a.m. And I believe we have Commissioner Bouchard.
Present.
Great. And Commissioner Cadena? Is she on? No? Okay, so it looks like we're missing Commissioner Cadena to start. Commissioner Davis, I believe you're here.
Yeah, I'm here.
Great, thank you. And Commissioner Dahl?
I'm here.
Great, thank you. And Commissioner Dunleavy?
Here.
Great. And Commissioner Ferrante, saw you?
Here.
Okay, good morning. And again, Commissioner Kalpikoff has a family emergency. Unfortunately, we might be missing him the whole day. Commissioner Lapis?
Good morning.
Good morning. Commissioner Medrano? I see him, but I don't hear.
Good morning.
There you are. Good morning. Commissioner Segura, I believe, is here.
Good morning.
Good morning. Commissioner Schneider?
Good morning.
Wonderful to hear your voice. Commissioner Sky, I believe I saw you.
Good morning. I'm here.
Great. And Commissioner Toyota? I see her. Good morning. And then Commissioner Ward, of course, who I've become attached at the hip with doing this report. Thank you so much.
Figure of speech.
Okay. So we do have a quorum, but we are going to have a few people joining us late, possibly, and again, Commissioner Kalpikoff isn't sure he can be here at all today, but he did give us his blessing to approve he would support the report with whatever recommendations we come up with. Okay, so we'll move on to agenda item number 2, which is review and potential approval of the meeting notes from our last meeting of June 2nd. Does anyone have any changes or would like to make a motion?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Great. Second?
I second.
Great. So all commissioners thumbs up if you're okay with that. Okay, or an aye. And then is there anyone who does not want to approve these meeting minutes? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and unanimous approval of the meeting minutes. Thank you very much. We'll move on then to agenda item number 3, which is our public comment review for items not on the agenda. And CalRecycle staff, Ben, do we have any, please?
We have the one comment from Bob Daviduke with Our Planet Earth. Do you want me to read the first 150 words of that?
I think we should. I did send it to all the commissioners right before the meeting because that is the only comment I saw in the portal that came in between the last meeting and this meeting. And it's a long one, and I thought he made some important points we should all hear. So yes, why don't we read the first 150?
Okay. Dear Commissioners, Our Planet Earth is the world's first completely vertically integrated manufacturer of recycled PET, packaging, and other products. The entire manufacturing process takes place in our completely vertically integrated plant in Vernon, California. Our manufacturing process is extremely efficient, which results in our product's greenhouse gas/carbon footprint being among the lowest, if not the lowest, in the world. Thank you for the opportunity to comment on the recently developed policy regarding establishing a list of materials considered recyclable within California. While we wholeheartedly support the idea of ensuring that non-recyclable materials should be kept out of the recycling stream, we must express concern about the unintended consequences of the list as proposed by the Commission. While we have many concerns ranging from the sourcing of data to the lack of a clear analysis and transparent application of the data to the listed criteria, our main, etc., and the rest of the comment has been published.
Thank you very much. So basically, Commissioners, that comment was really focusing on our defining of recyclable and what is in and out and whether there's enough of an on-ramp in our policy. So I wanted to read a little bit of that and discuss this for just a minute to just remind everybody who's watching that this commission is a voluntary commission. We have literally no staff. The support we get from CalRecycle is very limited. They do the meeting minutes and host the webinars and give us legal advice when they can. But outside of that, this is all on us. And we do not have staff to do research. We are not paid consultants. We're doing our best and giving our best advice. And I think the legislature and CalRecycle and regulatory processes do a lot of the vetting and some of the things that were described in Bob's comments. So I want to assure him that due process will be had. And there are bills in the legislature like SB 343 right now. If they want to talk about a process for on and off ramping, you know, for the labeling criteria or other things, now's a great time to talk to those legislators and get involved in that process. Are there any other commissioners that would like to speak to this before we move on? Very good.
I just think,
Then-
Heidi, I think reinforce the comment you just made. I think the commission is looking to have an on-ramp and off-ramp. And so as you mentioned, I mean, maybe the language currently is not perfect, but there is a process to then provide commentary to the legislature to get the changes and modifications made. But the intent is to have an on-ramp and off-ramp.
Absolutely. Commissioner Davis and then Commissioner Donlevy. Commissioner Davis?
Yeah, sorry, I was muted. One comment that stood out was that gap between legislation and regulation and implementing the recommended policies. So I believe we were going to be revisiting this list on a regular basis, but perhaps Mr. Donlevy was going to speak to that anyway. But that would be my one observation. I think it's an important one that there's a gap. And we need to be prepared to act on that. So.
Well, again, this is a snapshot in time, and clearly materials are going to change, and we all know that, and I think we described that adequately in the policy. But Commissioner Donlevy?
Yeah, thank you. For the materials that are in question, I think we've done a very good analysis, and the policy that we've presented gives guidance to CalRecycle to either replicate or modify the analysis that we've done to come up with their own determination based on our recommendations. One of the key items that several products missed was the facilities that were actually separating the material. So it could be sold to a market and turned into something new. We've asked many of the stakeholders to provide us lists of the facilities that are actually separating the material, not just accepting it, because I think some products had a pretty high acceptance rate, but I think they lacked facilities that were actually sorting the materials. So we've asked those stakeholders to provide the lists of the facilities and compared to the one that the recycling committee has presented, the number of facilities and the names of the facilities that are actually separating the material. So if they want to say an item is recyclable, they need to have partners, the MRFs, the sorting facilities actually sorting the material so it can be sold to a reclaimer or a mill that can turn it into something new and not just mixed with another product that could be an outthrow and just landfilled someplace else. So any of those that have concerns with the list, I would encourage them to recreate it and provide comments in the future as the commission reviews material types, because we would like to get more items on the list, but we would like to make sure that those items are actually being sorted at the facility. There's value for the material and there's end markets for those items. So thank you.
Well said. And the next recycling committee meeting, if I understand it correctly, is 1 o'clock on the 25th of June. So if anybody has any further input for the committee on these issues, they can do it then. So I would just say, I think that the overall signal, and correct me if I'm wrong, commissioners, from this commission to the manufacturers and the recyclers is we need to see progress on the doing. That's what's going to get us there. We need to collect more. We need to process more. We need now sort, process, and remanufacture. That's what's going to get us there. And we need to see that, not just words. That's what will close the loop. Okay. So that is for our finishing our talk on Bob's comments. Now, the other letter I forwarded to you this morning that's been posted for almost the full 2 weeks was submitted, I think, June 4th, was the letter from the American Forest and Paper Association regarding our policy recommendation to update the state agency Buy Recycle campaign and a bill that has been introduced to address that, which is AB 661. It is now a 2-year bill, but basically what they are saying is that that bill would mandate procurement of 100% post-consumer content copy paper, which is the most highly contaminated and resource-intense source of recovered fiber. They suggested that we look at that kind of recycled paper being in packaging papers rather than printing papers, and singling out post-consumer versus as better, they say, is flawed. I'd be happy to talk more with them during the interim because and during on the bills, because we have to get agreement and we have to get the state to update their program, and we'd like to have everybody on the same page. So I don't know if that's something that it's a market issue. So I think Commissioner Davis, that's something we might want to have a presentation from AF&PA to the Market Development Committee when we reconvene, and maybe update that policy if need be. If not, at least hear them out. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'll put that in. Our meeting is September 13th, our next meeting, so I'll reach out to them and see if we can do something.
Thank you
and
very much.
I think that bill is a 2-year bill. So
it is.
I
It's not.
believe that bill has become a 2-year bill. Yeah.
Exactly. So we will take that up, and thank you again for your comments. And I would like to ask CalRecycle. I emailed the question this morning, and if you sent it, I'm sorry I haven't seen it, but is there any update on the state budget? Wasn't it to be passed by yesterday? And the reason I want to bring this up because it's there's things in that budget that would apply to the commission.
Good morning, Heidi. I believe the overall budget was passed. There's still details to be worked out, though.
So we're not sure if some of the things that we thought were in there for organics and other materials got passed or not, and if so, what dollar amounts?
Correct. So the
Hey, Heidi, I could.
Nick, is that you?
Yeah.
Okay, go
I
ahead.
was going to say, so the action that was taken was that they approved $130 million to CalRecycle for the circular economy package without specifying the details, which will be worked out through trailer bills or the budget bill junior.
Okay, so it's 130 million total, and then to be determined how it's broken up.
correct.
Got you. Thank you very much, Zoe and Nick. Appreciate that. So that's something I think we'll want to follow. And Zoe, if you could keep us apprised of that or any way that the commission can weigh in on that, we would greatly appreciate it, because obviously how that money gets distributed will drive markets or help us achieve our goals. So can you commit then to giving me email updates, Zoe, and I can at least send them out to the commission to make sure everybody's staying apprised, especially if we're taking a summer break?
Yes, will do.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that very much. Okay, are there any other public comments for our items not on the agenda, Ben? Are we good?
No, they're not.
Thank you very much. So we'll move on from agenda item 3 to 4, which is our policy recommendations for second reading and final approval. And I'm sorry for the dog alarm in the back. My housekeeper just showed up. The policy recommendations that we had left, there were 4 of them. One was on 03 on returnable bottles, 04 on redefining reusable food service packaging, 06 on the personal care paper products, which I know NRDC is on the line to answer any questions if you have any. And I know Commissioner Medrano made some updates to that policy, a lot of formatting things. Hopefully we got that all nice and cleaned up. And then 10, which is carbon farming. So we can go ahead and start with returnable bottles, policy 2103, as it's listed now in the report. And this is the one that Commissioner Lapis and I put together. There is a bill in the legislature, the Comlager bill. I think it's AB 962 or something in that range. I can't remember all these numbers. But we thought it would be very important that this commission send a strong signal in support of reuse. And this is something that we've all talked about. Commissioner Lapis, did you want to say anything else on this?
No, I think that sums it up. I really appreciate your work on this, Heidi.
Oh, likewise. Okay, so commissioners, we'll take a vote unless I see any questions or comments, which I do not in the chat. So we're going to vote now. This is the second vote to approve adding the policy to the report for the July 1 date for returnable bottles, adding returnable bottles to the bottle bill, or returnable/refillable, however you want to call it. And all thumbs up for a vote of yes. Thank you. I see a lot of thumbs up. Is there anyone who does not agree with this policy? Speak now, please. I don't see any. I don't hear any.
I did have a question about this one, and it was just about the inclusion of the grant recommendation at the end. It's kind of a different format than anything else. It's a little distracting. Just thought I'd do a double check as whether or not you wanted to include that.
Why don't you, if you could, Commissioner Ward, share your screen so we can be clear about the question.
So, yeah, so at the end of this policy, no crushing, we have the request for approval from Rachel Wagner, and that was the bit that has budget, and it's talking about that grant program. It's just a little distracting.
I'm fine taking it out. That's not, to me, the main thing. Is that okay with you, Commissioner Lapis? Was there a reason you wanted that in there?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's fine. We can take it out. It would make the report shorter.
Yeah, we'll just drop it after the related issues. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You want to keep it? So you want to keep the words? You just want to move it? Or
No, I want to drop I would delete it just because, well, yeah. I just think it's distracting.
If you don't think it's additive, then let's take it out if everybody's okay with that. Okay. So with that edit, I will just double check. Is there anybody who is then changing their vote and would not support this policy if we remove that? I don't see anything in the chat. I don't see anybody waving their hands. So I think we have our final vote of support to add the policy on going back to refilling in the bottle bill to be in the report. So thank you very much, commissioners. So we've got policy 2103 approved on second reading with that minor amendment to remove that one section. So now we can go to policy 2104, which is redefining reusable food service packaging. And I believe this was Commissioner Ward's drafted policy. And we might want to show that. And is there anything you'd like to say to everyone on this policy in order to get your second vote? I can't hear you, sorry.
The one thing that was added was the first bullet under item 2, which is the item is clearly designed to be reused for the intended function multiple times. So the main thrust of this is we've seen the terms recyclable and compostable abused with respect to food service packaging, and we need to be cautious to make sure that reuse is not abused in the same sort of way. We all believe we understand what reuse means, and that's the model is kind of reusable dishware. There's a process by which those materials are recovered, cleaned or restored, and then recirculated.
Is everybody okay with that amendment, or would you like to discuss that? Just basically qualifying what refill return means, to be a little specific. Okay, so, I'm sorry, the food, yeah, reusable.
It's
So with
reusable food.
Sorry, yeah, I was thinking the last one. Are there any comments or questions on this? Then do we want to go ahead and vote for a second read and approval? All those in favor, thumbs up or say aye. Awesome. All right, I don't see any no's. I don't see any comments in the chat. So with that, we have our second policy approved on second reading today, which is 04 on redefining reusable food service packaging. Thank you very much, Commissioner Ward, for your work on that. Now we'll move on to 06, which is the personal care paper products. This was presented to the Market Development Committee and NRDC, the Natural Resources Defense Council. Staff is available to answer any questions. They've actually got a bill on this in the legislature. And this is really to stop procuring. And, there's two goals to me of the commission. And one of the things we might want to do, I thought about today, is in the future reports, putting which of the goals that we were tasked with at the top as far as what that policy is actually achieving, because there's so many goals that we have been given that this one to me deals with greenhouse gas emissions. We all know healthy forests sequester a lot of carbon, and when we chop them down, we lose all that. So that's actually part of one of it's a little bit off the normal path of waste management, but I think it does apply here. And certainly, procuring recycled content is market development. So I guess Manuel Medrano is our commissioner that really worked on this. So Manuel, is there any comments or any final words before we vote?
Not at this point, but you summed it up pretty well again, and hope we get support for this. Very important bill for us.
Fantastic. Okay. So without any further ado, I don't see any comments in the chat. Go ahead and thumbs up if you approve this on second reading. Is everybody okay? Fabulous. Is there anybody who would like to speak against? Hearing none, we have now voted up our third policy to add to this report. July 1st, thank you very much, and to Commissioner Medrano and our friends at NRDC, thank you all so much for your hard work on this. I'm personally very attached to the boreal forest. I've been talking about this for 20 years, so I'm glad to finally be doing something about it. Lastly is our policy 1021-10 on carbon farming. This one was presented by Commissioner Ward. Commissioner Ward, do you want to make any further presentation? And
I believe that Commissioner Oseguera had a comment on this one, so we should address his concerns or questions. The green was added since largely by the Organics Committee, so this is the second hearing. And I believe the bullet that got added that Commissioner Oseguera was interested in discussing was this one here. Commissioner Oseguera?
Hey, Ted. Ted? Yeah. Could you maximize your screen? It looks like it's minimized.
Yeah, I agree. It's a little hard to see.
In the upper right corner.
In the
little box.
Square.
The square.
Upper
I'm
right
sorry.
corner. There's a box. Yes.
Is that better?
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
And Commissioner Ward, for me, as I read that paragraph, and it says I won't read the whole sentence. So this plan incorporates compost and carbon farming to further help carbon sequestration and market demand for finished compost and mulch. Is there an understanding just here? I mean, I think it's just how broad it could be in terms of, carbon farming. I mean, do we agree do we all agree what that is in the definition of carbon farming? I guess it would just, for me, is that could just head into all sorts of directions, right? Unintended circumstances, unintended issues with what could that mean? And someone could say, well, I'm carbon farming, so here we go. And so I just wanted to make sure that that it doesn't end up with a whole bunch of material somewhere that then, 8 years down the road, all of us are now cleaning up because something was put into there that shouldn't be. So that was my concern.
I totally share that concern, and that's the reason why we've got to have the cleanest compost we can so that we're comfortable with it being used. But the idea is, yes, we're deploying compost on the landscape in a strategic manner to sequester carbon. And as long as we're planning for our natural and working lands and how we adjust to climate change, I think looking at how those lands can sequester carbon through the use of compost and mulch products is absolutely part of the picture.
Well, if we all agree, is this the right words on the page, I think would be the question. I think Commissioner Snyder had a comment. Commissioner Snyder?
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I completely agree. I would only say in the work that I'm doing down here, what we're seeing because of the drought is more and more of our residents cementing in their yards. So we're now having to do actions to remove cement in yards and remove fake grass. But I have heard from the carbon farmers that we local governments can make significant input by carbon farming our own fields and park space. And I just want to make sure, because when you first hear people talking about it, they're thinking really just farms. But all of us have parks. And it actually can help the health of the grass, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So
that's a really good point on terminology, which is kind of misleading. And I wonder, has carbon farming, quote unquote, been defined in California law yet?
I don't know that it has, but I just don't know.
Can we ask our friends at CalRecycle if any of them know? Zoe, would you guys know that? Maybe she's not there.
I'm here. I don't, but we'll look into it.
Thank you so much. That would be very helpful.
Because Chair Sanborn, I mean, I'm really concerned that we would open a Pandora's box of, we're right now trying to close it on recyclability. We're trying to close it on compostability. I hate to open a Pandora's box on a definition of carbon farming, which I think we all agree with, right? I mean, I do. I mean, Commissioner Ward's comments, it's like, yes, we should do this. I just don't want to see plastic and other things going into our farms and then the subsequent cleanups. I mean, that's my concern. So
I absolutely share that concern, but that, to me, that's the basic of is our compost clean? That's a completely separate question. Once we determine that the compost is clean, then we need strategies for its deployment. This is part of that. I agree that it may not be entirely clear exactly what is defined as carbon farming, but there's enough people working on this that I don't think it's entirely unclear either. We're not talking about landfilling in thin layers across the landscape. We're not talking about that.
Could we put in parentheses, maybe, Commissioner Ward, something that would say, parentheses, carbon farming, permitted by the state or permitted by a regulatory agency or, or something that says, with 0.001, contamination. I mean, whatever it is that just gives us at least some ability to close the, once again, I mean, I'm not against the carbon farming. I think that's a very good idea. Just how do we make sure that doesn't explode into something we're not intending it to be?
So the examples I think of are the great work that EcoCycle's doing out of Boulder, Colorado, promoting carbon farming, say, as part of promotion of the kind of things people might do in terms of backyard composting. How do you deploy compost to help farm carbon, mean sequester carbon on the property that you control? And this is a good thing to promote and to
Yeah, I don't
know
think
what it is.
Disagreeing, Ted. I think Commissioner Lapis, I think, wants to say something. I know he's got a lot of activity in this.
I don't want to put words in Alex's mouth, but I think if I interpret correctly, what he's referring to is that there are some folks who have been just land applying unprocessed municipal organics all over the state, and referring to it as mulching, even though it's not a finished product and it has contaminants, has plastics, and we want to make sure we're not giving them cover for that, if I understood correctly. And I actually share that concern. I don't think anybody's going to take this commission recommendation and, run it as a fully baked policy. I think, the CDFA and the Air Board and others would be implementing the details. So I'm not too worried about them allowing that, but I do think Alex makes a very valid point that we mean compost and clean mulch. We don't mean spreading stuff on a field.
I think maybe what we're getting to is, and I'll let Commissioner Davis go next, but I think if we have language that backstops our concern about contaminated material getting land spread across California and basically ending up breaking down, and we can't get it out. Once it's there, we could have literally destroyed farmland that we need to grow food. So I think that's what everybody agrees to. So maybe we can talk language, and we'll have Commissioner Davis and then Commissioner Sky next.
Yeah, I'm hearing two things. One is, what is carbon farming? And I think that's a fair question. I did a search, and it looks like the resource conservation districts are the primary focus, but there is no state definition. So we're talking about something that isn't clearly defined in statute. So that could be part of it, although the language that I saw that Commissioner Oseguera was proposing, I think, touches on that. So, what is carbon? Because you can put compost in the soil, but that's not carbon farming. Carbon farming is growth attributed to the use of the compost beyond the growth that occur without the compost. And, the Marin Carbon Project is an example. So I've dealt with that land application issue with a resource conservation district in the Mojave Desert area. So it's a concern, and it's a long-lived concern, and we should be concerned about it. But there are regulations that just need enforcement, and I think that is probably another topic. But yeah, absolutely, we should not be just land applying material saying it's organic and paying someone to take it. I've talked with people who believe that some farmers are making more money receiving dirty material and piling it on the land and leaving because it's on lease land or BLM land. So yeah, there's a lot of issues, but I think the definition, that's an important one from my standpoint. You don't have carbon farming just by putting compost on the soil.
Okay, Commissioner Sky.
I think this is a great conversation. I'm wondering if we can try and add a bullet that captures what I'm hearing as a consensus, if Commissioner Ward can pull up the language again. Because the two things I'm hearing is that we don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater, essentially, by holding this proposal back, but we definitely have concerns about, yeah.
So that's what I add. This would be added, and I was just typing that as you were saying. So does this address what you're pointing to, Commissioner Oseguera?
You're reading my mind, Commissioner Ward, as usual.
Yes, Commissioner Ward. I mean, that makes me feel that then it kind of clarifies the intent of what the commission wants, right? It's
Yeah.
I share your concerns.
What Commissioner Davis mentioned. I mean, it's really using the materials to sequester the carbon versus, trying to find an inexpensive way to quote unquote say they are carbon farming when in fact what they're doing is spreading materials. And to Chairperson's Sandborg's comments, now we're dealing with a contaminated soil that should be used for farming, right? So.
And is it clear in this language contaminants could include, the spread of diseases? So there's, in Southern California, a number of quarantine areas because of various diseases. And yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Or pathogens.
Yeah, pathogens.
Okay, now the only thing that I'm not seeing that would be addressed in that we've raised is the issue of defining carbon farming, or is that even the right name? Because it does imply farms. It doesn't imply carbon sequestration in soils generally. I thought Commissioner Snyder brought up a really good point there. And I know people are starting to call this carbon farming, but if it's not defined anywhere, should we suggest it be defined and that it be broader, and maybe it's not even farming is the right word?
The chair, I think if the definition of carbon farming included local government park land, soccer fields that haven't been turned into artificial turf, et cetera, that would be enough. And maybe it's only my city, how little mulching we do, but there's a big Central Park just down the street from me, and that could do a lot for our own local application. I have a different question, and I hope the Organics Committee covered it, and it goes back to the pathogen question. With land application of sewage sludge, since local governments are now going to be held accountable for the application of their sewage sludge, where's the Organics Committee on that? That's the pathogen collect thing in there, but it's also microparticulates.
I think we're getting to all of that with this language.
Okay, if you guys are comfortable with that, I took my SB 1383 calculator class, and now I'm trying to convince my city we've got to start throwing in sludge.
Okay, so Commissioner Ward is trying to craft language on the fly, which is always difficult. So let's see, define carbon farming and clarify which lands that could be used for such. Well, and maybe do we want to say that farming is implying farms, and we're worried that that term may not be the correct term? Because really what we're talking about is sequestering carbon in soil, period.
For what it's worth, I interpret it as we are farming carbon as opposed to crops, which, I mean, it's a, a marketing term, not a scientifically defined term. But that's how I interpret it, and I think it's a helpful framing. You could switch it all to carbon sequestration in soils, and I think still capture the same idea.
Why don't we just put quotes on carbon farming there and then just leave it? Because again, we want to keep this moving. I think we all agree. We just want to add these parameters. Yeah, that's good. And then put quotes around carbon farming. And then clarify which lands could be used. Yes, Commissioner Davis.
Yeah, again, to me, carbon farming, when you put compost in the soil, you're sequestering carbon. If you put the same material in a landfill, you're sequestering carbon. So in one definition, if you want to define sequestration, Nick Lapis and I have gone around on this topic in other venues. So to me, the difference is that the use of compost actually encourages ongoing plant growth that sequesters carbon beyond the normal growth of that plant or the mere application of compost. So I think defining carbon farming is important. To say it understood to be carbon sequestration strategies, it kind of opens the door to just putting the compost in, and that's I think that's my concern. You really want to see growth. The problem is there's not a lot of research. And, you know, I've talked to people at NRCS, I've talked to people who are advising NRCS recently about this, and, you know, they're really looking to understand more. Marin Carbon Project looked at native grasslands, you know, in Marin County and determined there was substantial increased growth and carbon storage as a result of the compost application. But we don't know how that applies in other venues. We don't know if that applies to a lawn at someone's house like it does to native grasses. So it's just a complicated term. It does be defined, but I'm not sure we should be trying to define it.
Through the chair.
Okay, so I agree that we should not be trying to define this here. This is not the venue to do it, and it's a research project in and of itself. So I would suggest that we just make sure that in our advice, we're being clear that the term needs to be defined and clarified where it can be used, and, you know, that we don't want to see the spreading of contaminants, all kinds of contaminants in the wrong places, that concerns us. I think this is similar to the recycling, pushing a recycling rate before we had a market, and then it all gets, you know, a lot of it gets shipped to places that cannot handle it. It's the same sort of thing. If we set goals before we have the markets, sometimes we drive sometimes the wrong behavior. So we have to be very, very careful on this. And so Commissioner Osigura, since this was your, you brought this to our attention, are we getting the words right here for you?
I mean, yes, I believe that the wording is a lot better. I think it shows the intent of what we want to do. So I feel more comfortable with it. I just thought that initially as the word, and I know Commissioner Ward's intention was, I think, what we're all talking about, right? We agree. It seemed where we had put it, it seemed way too broad. That could be taken in many directions. I think now we put parameters around it. So the legislature takes a look at it. Now they can say, okay, we understand where they were headed, and now they put additional items to it or parameters to it.
And one last comment by Commissioner Schneider, and then maybe we can vote on this.
This is back, thank you. This is back to Commissioner Davis. What's happening in my county is there is a little bit of research on application of compost to grass, because it does help the grass. It makes the grass healthier, makes it easier to maintain it, fewer additives to make the grass grow, but it's also locking in more moisture into the soil. So that's also why it's showing up in all of the work now on wildland urban interfaces. So it's moisture content as well as growth, even if that grass is not being fed to goats or something like that, and it's only being grass cycled right back in. So that work's beginning, John,
Yeah,
but
I think
maybe it's not as scientific
you know,
as we'd like it.
No, there's a lot of benefit to compost use. The carbon farming, again, is
More
it's
specific.
a different issue, right? It's the sequestration.
Can we both,
and
can you both agree with this
Yeah, we
language?
can talk more about it, but it's,
Yeah, we can. And it was UC Cooperative Extension that said, yes, Councilwoman, putting it on your parkland will sequester, but will also make it easier to maintain your grass in droughts.
Correct. Yep. So why don't we decide
that's part of the definition.
if this language is okay? Is there anybody who has any other suggestions to the language changes? Okay, so seeing none, do I hear a motion to approve as amended? That was live that Ted had on the screen, which has vanished. Is there, Commissioner Osigura, since you're the one who raised that comment, maybe make the motion to be sure we've got it.
I did. I just took
Okay.
myself up mute. Thank you,
Okay.
Chair Sanborn. Like mine. So
I know. the
I
language is-
motion to approve the policy as amended by Commissioner Ward.
Thank you. In a second.
Second that with appreciation to
I'll second.
Commissioner Osigura.
Oh, good. You get seconds and thirds. All those with okay with this amendment, say thumbs up or aye. Perfect. Is there anybody who opposes that? Fantastic. Again, amazing teamwork. We've got all 4 of our policies approved today, and we will accept those changes, and that will be our 4th and last policy to approve today on second reading. So we now have a full commission report with all the policies set up for July 1st. Thank you all very much, commissioners. Are there any public comments, Ben?
No, there are not.
Okay, then we will move on to agenda item number 5. And we're even running early. And this is on the report. Before we start this, and I'd like to go to the very top of the report and do it as we did it last time. There were some, I want to thank several commissioners who put a lot of time into reviewing this. Commissioner Sky gave a lot of edits. And Commissioner Osagura gave us a bunch last night, and I really appreciate you guys taking the time to really double check this. But Commissioner Osagura, we did not get time to incorporate some or discuss, so we wanted to have it with everybody. And then, so we'll just go through, Ted has added them to the document itself because you had sent us a Word document with some edits and comments, but they're now in this form. So we'll just go through this literally top to bottom and address section by section. So if any commissioners have something they want to change or ask questions about as we go, we'll start on the very first page, which is a graphic you haven't seen before, and start there. And before we get started on that, I do want to give you an update on a conversation I had last Wednesday with Liliana, who works for now Senator Eggman, Susan Eggman, who was the author of this bill enabling the commission. It started, her first question, it was regarding this report. Unfortunately, Commissioner Valle could not be there. But what her first question was any advice on the bottle bill? So I said, we have given some advice, and it's basically the same. And I reiterated the urgency that it would be in the report, the urgency letter we sent, the op-ed that was written by the Vice Chair and I, that those things still haven't been addressed at the urgency level as far as I understand it, and that's where the commission is landing. So the language in the report around the bottle bill, I'm just relaying to you, is going to be looked at very, very carefully by legislators. I think they're still really struggling as to what to do with the bottle bill, what's the right thing, and they want to kind of move it, but they don't sometimes, I think, know what to do. So they're looking to the commission to give them some guidance. And so I just wanted to relay that. The other thing that she asked is about getting something of a scorecard, which we had already discussed and I had already started, which is a spreadsheet that lists all the policies that we've adopted and have there been any actions taken on those policy recommendations from the first report and then the second report. And thank you, Commissioner Ward, for pulling up the spreadsheet and the scorecard as we've laid it out. And especially Commissioner Lapis and others that are very involved in legislation. If we missed anything or got something wrong here, please make sure we've got it right. But it was current as of yesterday. The recommendations that we made or are going to make, we assumed that the policies would all be approved in the report. And right now we have literally, if you go to the bottom there, Commissioner Ward, for just a second, where it has the totals, 13 of the original 20 recommendations had action. One is dead, which is the EPR for batteries. At least that was the one that, so again, if that's wrong or if you think we're tallying this incorrectly, please help us correct it and take a close look at that. We had thought that, again, policies 8 and 9 were basically part of the May budget revision. I don't know if they are still in there or if it just has all been delegated to CalRecycle, it sounds like, Commissioner Lapis, that those things on market development and GoBiz and having an enhanced role will just be up to CalRecycle, but they have new money to deal with those things as they see fit. So those are the two things that were raised by Senator Eggman's staff. I just wanted to relay that. So if any commissioners had a question or thought, Commissioner Lapis.
The only thing that jumped out at me is, I mean, I know the bottle topic is very controversial and we do not have a consensus among the commission members, I think, in terms of which bills accomplish what the commission recommended.
So I'm not totally sure how to handle that. I see that the spreadsheet lists 1311, which is a bill that addresses part of what we've talked about. There are obviously a couple more as well. I'm not sure how to handle that delicately. I mean, either way, it's not an endorsement by the commission, but I feel like 1454 was introduced in large part in response to the issues raised here. So I would probably add it from a 1454.
Yeah. So
But if it's contentious for the folks, but I know there's some folks on the commission who don't support it. So
well, this isn't about support or opposition. This is simply, do we believe that any bills or policies have been introduced that would address the issues we raised in these policies? That's all it is. It's a very fact-based thing. It's not an endorsement of any sort. If we already have 1454 listed under 14, policy 14.
Oh, do we? Okay, I apologize. You're right. I apologize.
No, it's quite all right.
For some reason went straight to the letter to the legislature item and saw 1311 listed there. Maybe you could move 1311 then to that same category.
To the same. Yeah, I thought that would bill, I think, was supposed to be under the bottle bill. Because it's bottle bill related, and I think it was just that it wasn't urgency, but it did have some of the things the commission recommended.
Ted, I think you just deleted. Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Are there any other policies you think we've missed? This is very, very important. This is our review of how others have responded to our recommendations. So if we've missed something, they're probably going to miss it too. So I'd ask everybody to really look at this very closely for the things that are important to you, the policies you've worked on. If you know something we don't, please, let's make sure we get it in there today. Okay, Commissioner Dunleavy and then Commissioner Sky.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, with the letter that the commission put out on February 3rd, it doesn't look like there was any urgency or action related to that. There was nothing in the budget that would actually help open recycling centers, especially in the underserved areas. So to hear that the legislature is looking to the commission for guidance, you know, the one and only urgency letter that we submitted really didn't go very far. Wasn't any urgent action, especially in the budget, that would have helped consumers get their deposits back by opening new redemption centers. So, and then on the list, is there a reason that SB 38 is not included? Because that is also a potential option for fixing some of the issues in the bottle bill.
Total oversight. No, please, I can't believe we missed that. There's only two of us double checking this stuff with other, yeah. That's why we're doing this, because I really wanted to make sure we got this right.
SB 38 is where?
It should be under the bottle bill, the beverage container.
Okay.
I think 14, and then also, Commissioner Lapis, would you think there's any other policies that it would be applicable to?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Although I will add
for
that I think the comment about needing an urgency has been received by the legislature. I believe that's being proposed to be added to a bill.
Who was the sponsor on SB 38?
Wachowski. Senator Bob Wachowski.
Please help me on spelling if I didn't get that right.
I think that's it.
And status?
It's up for hearing, I believe, Commissioner Lapis. Going in.
Yeah, Assembly Natural Resources Committee.
It's in the Assembly.
I think it's going to be heard on the 23rd, right? Okay, and I see other comments. So Commissioner Dunleavy, it sounds like Yeah, you're just reiterating.
Yeah,
that.
last comment. AB 478. I don't know if that's under beverage container or what is recyclable.
478. Let's put it down.
I thought we had it on here somewhere. At the top, maybe somewhere.
Okay.
I thought I saw it.
Yeah, I thought we had seen that. Yeah.
There it is. AB 478.
Ting Bell, yeah. That was listed under problem products, incentives and disincentives. Is that the right way to categorize it?
I mean, it's a recycled content mandate, which I think kind of falls under the market development ones as well.
Yeah. Yeah, but for 478 to succeed, they're going to have to fix the bottle bill. So.
Right, because that was the comment about how they bail all the PETs in the bottle bill and get paid for it.
Yes.
So then I probably should be also under the bottle bill. Well, no, because the bottle bill. Well,
no, I mean, specifically, I think Jeff's point is valid, and that is something that needs to be addressed, but the bill specifically applies to non-beverage PET, so it'd be kind of weird to call the bottle bill.
But the bottle bill is the problem to getting it. So that's where it's like, I just want agreement from all of us where to categorize these things.
That's the right place.
Yeah.
What
Okay.
is recyclable?
Oops. Hello.
And obviously, this is very hard to do on the fly in a spreadsheet. So thank you, Commissioner Ward. And then while you're doing that, Commissioner Sky.
My comment was on SB 38 as well, so that's been addressed. Thanks.
Fabulous. And Commissioner Davis?
I think we now have the returnables, row 24, policy 21. And I'm sorry, I don't know the bill number, but isn't there a bill on that?
Oh, you mean the refillables? Yeah. Didn't we put the Comlager bill in there?
Yeah. No, it should be on row 24.
Okay, we'll let Ted finish what he's doing there.
And there's one more.
Ted, you may have to download and edit in Excel.
I'm moving on.
those
Okay.
formatting changes.
Well, let's just see if the Comlager bill.
I agree. Moving on. It's there. Where is the Comlager bill supposed to be?
Down a little bit.
Refillables?
Returnables, yeah, 21
24. There you are. And the bill number is?
AB 9, let me check. I have it.
962.
962, that's right.
Comlager, KAM.
LAGER, yeah. And that is in Senate EQ as well. Masterfully done.
Excellent.
And then the fiber products policy, there is legislation, but it's really
There is.
more on forest. Yeah.
You're right. Do you have the bill number, Manuel?
Yeah.
I do not.
Trying to remember where.
Let me look for it.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it too.
416, AB 416, I believe.
Yeah, AB 416, it's a KALRA bill, KALRA.
Yeah.
Thank you, good catches. That's exactly what we were hoping to do.
416. Spell again?
KALRA. KALRA.
Status?
That I don't know and we can fill in, but that's a fact that is not negotiable. So Commissioner Lapis, were you saying something?
No, I'm not.
Oh, sorry. Okay. So I can find that.
Yeah,
status.
it cleared the Senate, but it cleared the Senate, but it's not set yet for hearing.
You mean the assembly? It's an assembly bill.
I'm sorry, yeah, it cleared the Assembly. It's in the Senate, but not the sign.
So it's probably going to Senate EQ. I would just put Senate EQ and I'll double check it. Commissioner Ward.
Yeah, I'm looking right now. It's not been assigned. It's at rules. It's at
Rules,
Yeah, rules.
okay. Let me put question mark. We assume it's going to go to EQ, but it hasn't been assigned yet. Okay, excellent. So then we've really got, is everybody feeling comfortable with this scorecard, since this is something the legislature has basically asked for to make sure we get this right? If you look at it.
Yes.
Crossing SB 38 there? No, it's keeping. I'm sorry. It's a formatting thing.
Chair Sanborn,
I'll
I
fix it,
think
but-
my answer to the question would be yes. However, to Commissioner Lappis's comment, I believe, I just want to make sure that because we came up with this list does not infer that we all agree to the bills and how they're written, right? I
We're not
believe
saying that
we,
anywhere.
okay,
Yeah.
because we all do agree there needs to be a fix, for example, for me, to the bottle bill. I don't agree with some of the directions some of the bills are addressing the issue.
We totally understand that this commission has not voted on a single bill. What we have agreed on are the policies in the left column. And what we're trying to identify are simply the facts of whether we believe something in those policies is being addressed in some policy proposal somewhere. That is not a statement of endorsement of the bill, because there's other things in those bills. And maybe what we should do is make sure the language in the report associated with this spreadsheet is explicitly clear about that. So after we're done with this, I think that's a very important point. We need to go back and double check that section of the report, because it was done almost last. And I think that all of you need to make sure you agree with the tone and the language. And I think you had some comments on that, Commissioner Osigura, so we were going to discuss that anyway. Okay. Any other thoughts on this, on bills or policies proposed that might be assigned to our policy recommendations? Seeing none, I think we'll just go ahead and start with the beginning.
I'm sorry. The prohibition on the chasing arrows. Is that list? I don't remember the bill numbers, but
343, SB 343.
at 842.
SB
That was
343.
343 on the chasing arrows. Okay.
Is it there, Ted?
Okay,
I'm looking.
thank you.
Looking for it.
Yeah, it is there. It's there.
It's my bill, so I'm not. Nick and I would be very upset if it wasn't.
I'm pretty. It's there. I'm sure. Yeah.
Is it? Because I'm not seeing it.
I'm not either.
How did we miss
Yeah,
that?
it's there.
Under which, because the policy was about labeling, truth in labeling.
Yeah.
I think it goes under what is
Which is the
recyclable.
last
Oh,
one.
what is recyclable? Oh, we should have put it there.
Oh, it is there. I'm sorry. It's a formatting thing. It's the thing it's all the way over here.
Missed that. Okay.
Okay.
We didn't
Sorry.
miss it. It's just the format.
So give the row a little more space to make sure we.
Trying.
Thanks. Good catch. Good catch. Okay. So with that, we can just start after Commissioner Ward is finished with this to make sure we get
It's
in the time
there. I got to fix the formatting. Let's not waste time on it.
Okay, I would put yellow or something so we don't forget. Okay, so let's go to page 1 of the report, and we're just going to go through this as fast as we can. We're at 9:04, so we're right on time. Actually, we're a little early. And I just want to say that Commissioner Ward raised with me the issue again of wanting to brand the commission a little bit. And so we rechecked with Cal Recycle, and they did give us the okay to come up with a logo. And our goal with this logo, if you could do an enlarged screen, Commissioner Ward, so we can better see it. The intent was to show the Golden State, highlighting not just recycling and composting, which is the green and the blue, or blue and green, but the infinity about going to a circular economy, and that includes reuse, refill, reduce, all the things that seem to get neglected in a lot of the policies of the past. And there's a giant red X on it now, so I don't know what that.
Nick is suggesting we delete the thing. Nick, yeah, you want to talk?
So let's.
No, I'm not sure what I did. I don't know how to. I apologize. I'm not sure what I did.
It's quite all right.
I'm not suggesting. If you can reject my suggestion, that's not.
There we go. Okay, so are there any thoughts on this logo, or any issues with having a basic branding of the intent of everything we're giving them? Is that Commissioner Davis? Did you want to say anything? Or is that from the last?
No, that was earlier. Yeah.
Is there anyone who has an issue with this branding or logo, or are we totally missing it?
For Commissioner Ward, I would just, you know how you have the blue there where it ends in a straight line where the arrow's going there? And this is just for the future, right? I mean, just for the future. If you could make it to where that arrow then fits into the blue, right? As kind of showing that how it's going to fit there to create.
So it's an indent, right? So it's a female male thing. I support that. The only thing I hesitated on is it implies that compost becomes recyclable, which of course is not the case, but I'm fine with that change.
Yeah, I would just say, I mean, it would be a cool branding of how it all connects, right? For the circular economy. Just a comment. I mean,
I concur. I'd be happy to make that change. I like.
So the change is simple. It would just be putting an arrow, it sounds like, on the bottom left of the bottom of the blue, right?
It'd be a receiving arrow, but not wider. It would stay the same width. It'd just have a triangular chunk out of the tail of it.
So the arrow would be going up towards the green solid.
But
So the two arrows would be at the bottom. Because infinity goes like this. It's a chasing 8. So if we...
Let's see.
Yes, that's right, Chair Fanbard. That's what's missing here. To make that turn into that right now seems almost like it stops.
Yeah, I
you
agree.
have to, the visual has to be that it's continual, right?
I'd be happy to fix this if Chair Sanborn wants to guide through the language as we're doing this, but or I can fix it later.
Fix it later. I mean,
Fix it later.
I think you got the idea.
Yeah,
We'll just put the arrow at the bottom, just like the green, but if it's a chasing arrow, it has to be going in the same direction over and over and over again, even though we're not putting recyclable in the compost and it's coming back out. We're indicating with a graphic. We're going to infinity. There's 2 parts to this. It's the materials that nature provided, and it's the materials that man created and are, well, actually a little bit of both because we got paper and things. But anyway, so that's the 2 types, and then there's source reduction implied in there, there's refilling implied in there. That was the goal. If we missed it, or if anybody comes up with another idea, please let us know. Otherwise, this will stick for at least this report, and we can always change it later. We could have probably a whole committee just on the graphic if everybody wants to spend it. Okay. Well, let's move on then. And we planned, by the way, to submit this on Friday after Ted and I have had time to go through this and make sure we've got everything buttoned up and we have a nice intro email sent out, ready to go and so forth. But so that date will change if we do change the date. But that was the intent. So we can go to.
I think you need to maximize. You need to maximize your screen again.
Yeah.
The upper right. Upper right.
Yeah.
Where?
Oh.
Well,
I would close the other.
minimize something, but it's, yeah.
There you go.
There you go. Thank you.
All right. So we'll change the date if we submit it on a different date. The plan is Friday. Next slide, please, or page. So this is just the table of contents. And thank you to Commissioner Ward, who has so magnificently assigned page numbers automatically with the headers and figured out all the, I have no idea how he does it.
Oh my goodness, I was in suggesting mode, I'm sorry. Never mind about this, we'll fix it.
What is it?
I just updated the table of contents, and because it was in suggesting mode, it automatically struck out the old one, which makes it.
Can you undo that with a simple undo click?
Yeah. Try.
There we go.
Okay.
All right.
We are.
Got to be so careful with these things. All right. One click and we're on the cliff.
Moving on. All right.
All right. So we'll go to the executive summary. I'm just going to start page by page. Executive summary. Does anybody have any thoughts or questions? We were hoping that you'd be able to, put comments on the side, and then Ted and I could adjust. We haven't seen any comments on this, so unless you have an issue with the executive summary that we are not aware of to date, we can just move through this. Okay. We'll keep going until we see the next big header, origins. And this one basically is the same. We just added what Commissioner Potashner resigned in April due to change in employment. The forward. Is everybody okay with the forward, or are there any comments on the forward? Because I think as we scroll through, I didn't see any new additions.
There's two things that came up just for on that. It just agendize came out as that there might be a different spelling, or just add to your spelling. And there was postable by CalRecycle. It's also said that postable was not, you had to add to the dictionary. I don't know if it's a word or not. But
where are we?
They're on the first, under, up. Under forward, under the three bullets, then you have the next paragraph. And then it says that agendize is not a word, and that postable is not a word. But you have it fixed, so maybe you accepted it.
I think
you're fine now.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we accepted the formatting ones that were obviously a mistake, and
okay.
I think, yeah.
Yeah, and generally, I appreciate the input from Kobe and John, and when they were just clarity changes, we just made them.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't see any other comments here. I don't see any comments in the chat. So everybody's okay with this. And then we have the Title I Commission for Committees, which explains how we set ourselves up. Put a little bit of defining around each of the committees. Hopefully everybody's on the committees, especially chairs, are okay with all this. Don't see any comments in the side there. Keep going. That's how we set ourselves up. Here we go. There's a comment.
One.
So this is from Commissioner Guy. Numbering. This is the question about numbering. So Commissioner Ward and I went round and round, and we want to ask all of you. The first report had 1 through 19. The second, we're thinking we have to number them by year, because as the commission goes on, it'll be important to know which year the original policy was adopted. So we did 21-01, 02, 03, etc. Do we go back and renumber them 2020-1 through 19? Or do we leave them 1 through 19 and then start with the 2021? We don't care. We just want everyone to agree. What's easiest, do you think? Commissioner Segura, I personally thought it would be easier to go back and renumber starting with the years, and then that way it's all really clear what year, and we have the same formatting. Commissioner Sky suggested that, but I really...
By year, I think, is a great idea. I mean, you have the ones that were done in 1 year and the other. It's very clear, I think.
Okay. Well, then why don't we go ahead and renumber it, Ted? But what we can do is just explain that the numbering is the same for the first 19. It's just that we added the year in the front.
Yep. And towards that end, just for clarity moving forward, I think it would be really good to have proposal and then fix a number to a proposal. And then when it's a policy, we can renumber the policies because then we're putting it in the report and the order may change. That way we clarify which policy we're talking about at which point or which proposal, because well, the numbers have changed and we don't want to add the.
I'm sorry, I got confused.
So
What?
in this case, I think we should have all of the policies from 20 be 20-1 through 19. All the ones from 21-1 through 19. I went through 11. But from this point forward, for instance, in year 22, we would have proposal 2201, proposal 2202. And then when we get to the report, then we would have policy numbers, and those might be. Just saying.
I don't know if I understand the difference between a policy.
In this case, for instance, in the most recent proposals, we had the proposals get renumbered from the last meeting. And I, of course, don't want to add confusion, but the proposal, say, 2104 from the last meeting is not the 2104 we're talking about this meeting because they got renumbered based on the policy order. So it's clear to start with proposals like a draft and then end with policies, which is the final.
But these are not policies. These are all, we're an advisory board. These are all policy proposals, and that's why I was getting confused. Okay.
Yeah, and we've used the term somewhat interchangeably, but now when we have the policies listed, they're all listed as policies. None of them are listed as proposals. So I'm seeing proposals as a draft, policy as a final, even though I acknowledge they're not, until the legislature acts, they're not really state policy.
Okay, Commissioner Ferrante.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty clear that we've been working in draft all along until the final report is published. So I don't think that there's any risk of confusion on that point. I don't like calling them policies. I think we should call them policy proposals or proposed policies because, as Chair Sanborn just said, I mean that's the point of this commission. These are our proposals, our suggestions. They're not policies at this point.
Thank you. Commissioner Sky?
I agree with that, and I would suggest you maybe not number drafts and give them a number once they are adopted by the commission to avoid confusion.
I completely agree. I think that was the lesson learned.
Well, and then we have the naming issue. So we will need to be consistent. We just have too many. That's
okay. Well, let's worry about the numbering now. So that was the question, and then we just had Commissioner Vice Chair Valle join us. So welcome. I would say we leave it the first 19 policy proposals from this commission were numbered as presented from our report in 2020, and then we'd add a sentence here that we have renumbered those to be 20-1 through 19, so that in future years we can identify which year the policy recommendation was made. And then we change and go back and change all these numbers. So it's 20-01, 21-0, and we're going to add, and for the 21 dash, it's going to pick up the number where the last one left off, because that way we have a running tally of how many policies we have put out. I think everybody wants to know that.
Then what happens when, so we go over 99, we go 21, you think so?
We don't go over 99. That would be maybe for a next commission after 4 years from now.
I like doing this sequentially year by year rather than additive.
Anybody else have a thought on that?
I'd agree with that.
I'm not sure I have a strong feeling, but since the first 19 were the preliminary recommendations for this report, this is the final version of those recommendations.
Correct.
So I think we should just number them all together, but I don't have a strong feeling.
Why don't we do this? Why don't we kind of work this out where we do this report, it's one set of numbers in a row. So we have a total number of policies in this report. That's obvious to everybody. And then in future reports, we can renumber the policies as things get adopted, things drop off, and at each report, we do it by year and then number for that report in a row. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, next year, 5, 6, 7, 8, but it's with the year in the front.
Okay, so you want to do 21, 1 through 30?
Yep.
I'm okay with that. I think we just need to be consistent.
No. I mean, I'm saying we leave the 20s-01, but the 21s will pick up on the first policy.
I see.
This report, and then out reports we will change those numbers to align with what's current because things are going to change. Some of these bills will pass, and then we don't need that policy anymore.
So what I hear you saying is that, say, this report has 30 policies, so we go 20 through 1 through 19, 21 through 30, and then for next year, it would be 22-01, correct?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, I'm good with that.
It'll probably get reshuffled and things will go off and come on.
But we're leading up to 21-30 as the final policy for this document.
Correct. Unless somebody disagrees with that, that's how we'll redo it. And then that'll be, I think, easier for out years too. Okay. Done. Thank you, Commissioner Sky, for bringing that up. And I do see a green track change right below here under the priorities of this commission with the 53%. Are we sure that's the right number for?
We are. I've confirmed that.
So we can accept that change. Okay. And then anything else under priorities for the commission? Did any commissioners have issues with this section? Okay, I'm not seeing any. I'll just scroll down in this section to make sure we've caught them all. Keep scrolling. Okay, and there we have. Okay, so this was Commissioner Segura's changes. Oh, this is something I asked Commissioner Lapis. I did email, and I wonder if I emailed the wrong email because I didn't hear back and I meant to call them. But Republic Services, I believe, also has a formal policy on, because I know they've been very supportive of AJR4 and testifying, to not export to countries that don't have a, can properly handle the plastics. Is anybody's out there listening, or maybe Commissioner Lapis can text our friends over at Republic or something while we're in the meeting to see if we can get it? Because I don't want to send this in and list one company against another and not be fair.
Heidi, I'm sorry, I meant to follow up with you last night. I just think that there have been several news articles that have mentioned multiple companies, and I think it's fair to write it in here based on news articles. There's at least a Waste Dive article I have open right now that identifies Waste Management, Republic, Recology, and Casella Waste Systems. Because I think it would be really weird to just put Waste Management here, because even though Alex didn't write it, it sounds like Alex was trying to do an infomercial on himself.
No, I actually quite the contrary. I put that I didn't know what the policies were for Republic and Waste Connections, and I just added the Waste Management one, so there was clarity.
So I mean, it clearly wasn't the intent, but it just, when somebody reads this later, and Waste Management is the only company that was on the commission.
Exactly. So we were trying to get others.
Heidi, I think it's safe to mention the other ones that were mentioned in the press, and I don't think we have footnotes, but if we did, we could cite the news articles.
I'm not sure if that's enough, though. Commissioner Dow?
Yeah, so as the person who started all this in 2019, when I went to Waste Expo and rose my hand in a big forum and asked everyone to commit, I can tell you definitively that Waste Management has committed to not export plastic waste, residential collected plastic waste, and Republic Services outside North America. No others. Oh, and Casella, but they're on the East Coast. No others, not Waste Connections. Recology has not. They're still exporting. They're just saying they're going to agree to the Basel Amendment, but they're still exporting. So there are only two, and it is Republic Services and Waste Management in California who have publicly committed.
You know, we could just replace the first line where it says Waste Management and you put the country's two largest waste haulers without calling out specific companies. And I think that communicates the point that that, you know, this has been a big shift.
But it's
two largest.
Why would you say the two names though? Why don't we just say the nation's two largest?
Well, I would also include Casella then, even though they're not in California, because I actually got a wonderful letter from the CEO of Casella right after we sent a letter to them. An NGO group led by me in 2019 sent a letter to all the major MRFs, including some on this call, asking them to commit to not export plastic waste to outside of North America. And Waste, to their credit, Waste Management and Casella immediately agreed, later Republic Services.
Okay. And Casella's quite large, I believe.
Yeah, they're huge in the Northeast.
Yeah.
I think they're the third largest.
Should we say adopted formal policies or have publicly committed? Okay, adopted formal policies of selling residential plastics through its MRFs only to North American markets. And then we'll take out the rest of it. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. We'll take out that yellow part. Okay, so you can accept that.
You want the second sentence?
I think that should be deleted as well. Or if we want to use similar wording instead of only the North American markets, to say processed through their MRFs in accordance with the Basel Convention requirements. Jen, is that
No, they go beyond Basel. They wonderfully go beyond Basel. Basel's actually, unfortunately, weak. So those have said zero residential plastic waste exports.
So we'll just leave it at that. Okay, so that paragraph is good. Some of the nation's largest haulers, including Waste Management, Republic Services, and Casella, including or being.
All right, dashes.
Largest haulers being Waste Management, Republic Services, and Casella have adopted formal policies to sell residential plastic processed through MRFs only to North American markets. That reads well. Okay, so why don't we accept that? And then we'll go on. You can take that off the green, yeah. And then lastly, there's a lot of discussion on the need to build infrastructure, but we want to remind everyone that building infrastructure is very expensive. To develop cost-effective recovery infrastructure, we must focus on waste prevention first to right-size the system we build. Failing to implement waste reduction efforts first could result in overbuilding infrastructure at great expense. So that is new language Ted and I came up with. I want to make sure everybody's okay with that. Okay, we're just trying to write, okay, I see thumbs up, thank you.
Heidi,
Okay.
could you take out the, we want to remind everyone, language? It's a little passive.
Sure.
It tracks.
Right.
Okay, so.
Excellent. Good.
You don't need,
Yes.
we are, by saying that, you're doing it.
Yeah, no, that's very good. Thank you. Lastly, there's a lot of discussion on the need to build infrastructure, but building infrastructure, yeah, perfect. Okay, so then we go on to policy 10, the controls on plastic waste exports. These are the policies that aligned with this section. And there's added language here, a lot of green, so we want to make sure everybody's okay with it. The Commission deeply appreciates the swift effort by members of the state legislature to introduce legislation to codify many of the preliminary recommendations issued by the Commission, including the following. And there's 4 of them. So AGR 4, urging the federal government to ratify Basel, which, by the way, we testified on yesterday and got out. AB 881 by Assembly Member Lorena Gonzalez to reclassify the export of materials overseas as disposal. I think that should be a semicolon at the end. 343 by Senator Allen to eliminate the use of deceptive recyclable claims on products that do not have recycling markets. That should also be a semicolon. Maybe an and, comma. 4, filtering to limit the use of compostable, quote unquote, claims. And oh, I see. There's 5. There's more. So semicolons. And then the AB 661. Assembly Member Bennett to update state agency Buy Recycle campaign. And 6 is the last, which is the battery bill, which died. So are we agreeing then to take out all the rest of that green language there? Everybody okay with that? Ted, do you want to just go ahead and accept the deletion? Yeah, sure. Okay. So we'll accept that. Yeah, that's so easy when we just accept the check. I think you just have to delete it. Okay. In addition, the Commission submitted 8 specific recommendations on the beverage container recycling, in the letter. Here's some more edits towards the bottom. So in short, the Commission stands by its 17-0 vote recommendation that these urgent requests for actions be addressed by the legislature. Is everybody okay with that? I think so. And then deleting that last sentence that the Commission recommends that the governor and legislature address, because that's duplicative. And I know a lot of people feel really strongly about the bottle bill. There's a lot of investments in these programs, so please make sure this works for everybody. Okay, and we can take off the green at the top there, that section there. I think we're all okay with that. Great. All right, well, hopefully, Commissioner Dell, this is making your heart sing on getting these plastics exports under control. Okay, urgent action, I think, is the next section to support redemption. So we'll just go through this slowly and look for comments, unless I see commissioners' comments. So we'll go to page 15. We have our first comments. And this is deleting as market demands shifted. Some recycling has shifted from buyback center.
Hey, I'm sorry.
Commissioner Alfaguera made a series of comments that I've added here.
Commissioner Davis, did you raise your hand?
Yeah,
can you put it in your chat?
Yeah, well, I'm sorry you were moving on, but the language that you just looked at, that paragraph about the beverage container program, it's sitting in a different place, and then we moved to beverage container, and it was a little confusing, but I'm okay with it. But
what's your suggestion?
You've got a paragraph about the beverage container, and then you move to beverage containers as a heading.
Okay, well, what's most helpful at this point is to actually give a suggestion, since we've had this up for quite a while. I don't, are you suggesting we move it?
I would just pull that paragraph under urgent action to support redemption. Pull the paragraph above it.
Right, and then move it, but down below, move it here.
Yeah. And I'm sorry. I thought I had recommended that earlier. So I must have got.
Oh, no, that's fine. As long, looks
Yeah.
like there's-
Now it flows better. Thank you.
I think you
Okay.
did recommend it, and I'm sorry if we didn't catch that. Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
So
now,
maybe it shouldn't start with in addition, though. Just the commission submitted 8, and maybe we spell out 8 on the beverage container recycling, the letter, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Thank you, I think that's a good suggestion. Okay, so then we'll just keep, see, we always see something third and fourth round even of edits. Next, we'll keep moving down here to the next comments. Okay, page 15. So this is the deletion. And I think this is where Commissioner Osagura had some thoughts on how we frame this correctly. Again, I know this is very sensitive. So this is a deletion of the market demands shifted. Some recycling has shifted from buyback centers to recycling programs, proportional contamination. And I think what he had mentioned at the last meeting is we want to frame that we've been additive with the curbside programs to address the markets and the demands of the recycling rates, et cetera, and not to focus on the contamination, et cetera. And I'm totally fine with that if everybody's okay with deleting that section. Okay. So the situation resulted in the following. And then again, without a place to get your deposit back, CRV becomes regressive tax, having that removed. Instead, communities without residential recycling collection deserve access to recycling programs because they pay for them like everyone else. I personally like calling things pretty black and white because it seems to me that some people just don't hear it unless you club them over the head with it. But I'm fine taking out the regressive tax, but it really, you know, to me, it kind of is.
oh,
So,
I'm sorry.
Commissioner Ward.
Yeah, speaking on behalf of the rural counties, that's exactly what it is. I mean, it is, I cannot tell you the chagrin of being forced to pay for a program that you are specifically being excluded from. That is just, it's seriously not right. And it's just not because we pay for it like everybody else. It's like, no, it's like you're taking money from it. Anyway, so I agree with the stronger one.
I guess, is there a way to word this more strongly than with, is it the regressive tax language, Commissioner Osagura, that's,
I was just trying to, as you mentioned, Chair Sanborn, making sure that taking both sides, right, making just trying to find how to say what we wanted to say without, you know, folks saying, wait a minute, I don't agree with that. I mean, I don't disagree with the comment about the regressive tax. It just depends who you talk to. They view it as a regressive tax. That's the only reason. So I don't think that for me it's a significant issue. It's just the way it was worded. You know, I didn't want that to get caught up with folks saying, well, wait a minute, and we get caught on the regressive tax language versus people deserve to be able to have an option to return their containers and redeem them. That's it. That's just, if you guys feel like that.
Maybe we change the order of the sentence. Would that help if I move the sentence to the end?
we have a suggestion from Commissioner Lapis.
I'm not comfortable with the regressive tax sentence either.
And
I like the way it is now. I think
Are we not using that anymore?
Commissioner Sky?
So the challenge for me with the rewrite is that it ignores the bottle bill program, which is what we're talking about. The bottle bill program is a deposit system. Access to recycling and the way we fund recycling programs is a completely different issue. And calling it a regressive tax might be too strong a language. We should be open to maybe softening that. But the issue is people pay a deposit for bottles and they cannot get that deposit back. And that was the promise of AB 2020. And that's what that first bullet was trying to address.
I agree. So how can we come to a conclusion that we can all agree with on saying something that's more specific to the bottle bill and the deposit and people not being able to get their because it says communities without residential recycling collection deserve access to recycling programs. That's very general. So I get where you're going, Commissioner Ostergura, but I think it's not specific enough to this bill.
Can I suggest that we add, to Kobe's point, after access to, put beverage container recycling programs, because that was the intent, I think.
But access and getting your money back are related, but I think the point being people literally cannot get their deposit back. It is failing, the program is failing them. The promise is not being kept. And that to me is a very important point that I'd like to make clear, and I'm fine taking out regressive tax. That's a...
How about deserve access and redemption value? Something like that, right?
And to have their money returned, their deposits returned.
You can even delete without residential recycling collection. It's not about whether that program exists or not. It's about the ability to have access to get that redemption value back.
Ted, can you not delete that? I think the point that was being made there is an important point, which is there is access to curbside residential recycling for beverage containers in most of the state, but not everywhere. And I think that was the original point that was being made.
Which is fine, because they have access if they have residential curbside, but if they don't, they still have the state has the same responsibility to make sure everybody can get their money back.
I'm confused about Commissioner Lapis's point, though, because the original point was without a place to get your deposit back. So you might have curbside service, you might not have curbside service. It's really irrelevant. If you place your bottle in curbside, that's very convenient. You're not getting your deposit back.
But it is offsetting your rates. And I'm just, this is a very, very sensitive area. I just want to make sure we're not saying anything polarizing one way or another.
There's the other commissioners that are starting to chime in. So let me see if there's other thoughts here from Commissioner Toyota and then Commissioner Dunleavy.
I'm having trouble with without residential recycling also. But let me see if I can think up some wording that might help.
Okay, I think we'll be a minute, so I'll give you a moment. Commissioner Dunleavy?
Okay, thank you. Instead of calling it a regressive tax, if consumers cannot get their deposits back, do we call it a advanced recycling fee? They're being paid, they're being charged at purchase to recycle that item if they can't get the deposit back.
Lost all audio. Can anyone hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I can hear you, Ted.
Okay.
Okay,
So
and then
without calling it a regressive tax, call it an advanced recycling fee. Because if they're not getting their deposit back, they're paying for recycling.
but that doesn't apply to everybody, so I don't think we could say that.
And the vast majority of people do, the vast majority of bottles and cans do get recycled even, or redeemed, even though we've lost a lot of the infrastructure.
That statement in Northern California where we don't have centers means nothing.
It's very regional, I agree, but in terms of a statewide report, that's...
Okay, let's hear from Commissioner Dell, please.
I agree with Commissioner Ward. Down here in South Orange County, it's very, very hard to find take backs. It's very, very hard. And in effect, this has become a tax on us, because this is supposed to be a deposit system where we get our nickels back, and we can reasonably get our nickels back, like in other states where there's reverse vending machines at grocery stores and so on. This has in effect become a tax, and you can say what the money goes to and who it helps fund or what have you, but it was supposed to be a deposit system. It's now become effectively a tax, and I do not agree with communities without residential recycling deserve access. No, recycling is a different story. This is a tax on us for buying something now because we have no way to get our deposits back. We have to separate the two issues.
Thank you, Commissioner Sky, and then Schneider, and then I'm going to kind of call it and try to wrap this up because we got a big report here, and this is a important discussion, but we do have to kind of wrap it up.
Just to suggest some wording, maybe we could say communities deserve access to recycling services for their beverage containers.
I would add convenient.
Yes, absolutely. And then we can separate the two issues. So deserves access to convenient, I think. Okay, that's fine.
But redemption should come first.
Well,
redemption and people getting, and then recycling, but redemption should come first.
Well, my point is, there's two issues. Everyone should be able to recycle their beverage containers, and that might be in the form of curbside service or a redemption center. In addition, people need to be able to get their redemption value back. Otherwise, it's not a true deposit system.
I agree with that in the reverse order. The number one thing is people should be able to get their nickels back. This whole bill was set and put in law with the idea that people would be able to reasonably get their nickels back.
Okay, there's two more commissioners that want to speak. So the way it's reading now is communities deserve convenient access to places, I would say just to redeem, access to redeem beverage containers because I would say to redeem their deposit from or on the containers because that was the promise of AB 2020.
So access to redeem beverage containers for their deposits, I think is the right wording for that. And then the second sentence can say,
yeah.
So the second sentence, you can then talk about, although curbside recycling can offset the cost for recycling programs, it does not provide the redemption directly to the customers.
But I think if you leave it right there, I think we're all in consensus if you just left it there. Because now it reads, communities deserve convenient access to places to redeem beverage containers for the deposits because that is the promise under the California's bottle bill, period. I think we can all agree to that. And we've all been talking, separate out, and that's what I try to do with the changes here, separate out the two issues, and I think we have consensus on that. There is the efficient and effective use of curbside recycling. That is a program. And then there's the bottle bill. The problem that I tried to change the language here is trying to pit one against the other. I can make arguments of there's millions of Californians that love their blue container and recycling everything in that blue container. And they love that some of the monies are offsetting some of their costs. There are others that want to use want to have access to more areas to place their bottles. So I think we all have consensus there. When we mix them is when we have an issue. And that's what I tried to attempt to do with the language. So I like where it's at now.
So yeah, I do too. So Commissioner Ward, we can delete that first sentence, I think. I think everybody's agreed that was too rigid. And then So now it reads, communities deserve convenient access to places to redeem beverage containers for their deposits because that is the promise under California's bottle bill. Does anybody disagree with that or have a change to that?
Through the chair, Anne here.
Sure.
The term deserve, to me, communities must have convenient access. That's the law. The law is must, not that we deserve. And hey, little girl, you might get it someday.
I wouldn't say pay for it. I'm thinking Commissioner Ward, how about we say, and that's a good point, communities
must have convenient access.
Must have.
And now the discussion of tax and fee is out of this entirely.
Yeah.
Because I'll be very anal here. They have very specific meanings, tax and fee. So if we can avoid that, that's better.
I think I like that better. Communities must have convenient access to places to redeem their beverage containers for their deposits because that is the promise under California's bottle bill. I like that. I'm seeing heads nod. Okay, so is there anyone who wants to change that, or is everybody okay with that on number 1? Commissioner Donlevy, are you okay with that? I see his nodding.
Yeah, this has gotten much better because the redemption program is separate from the recycling collection program. When the two merge, that's when we have problems. You know, there's a requirement for stores to take containers back if there's not a redemption center in those areas. But there's a community in Southern California, maybe it's Palos Verdes or Rancho Palos Verdes. They filed an exemption for all of their stores because they had curbside recycling. So they don't have a recycling center and they don't have any stores that are required to take the containers back because they filed an exemption saying they have curbside recycling.
Yep. Yeah, we got it.
They are two separate programs.
Yep. I think we've captured it then. I think everybody's in agreement. So why don't we accept the changes to number 1, unless I hear anybody saying they are not okay with that. Seems like we all are. So 1 is final. 2, many California families rely on container deposits to make ends meet, even more so when times are hard. The issue of not having accessible options to redeem bottle bill materials should be solved as it disproportionately hurts the economically disadvantaged individuals. I don't know, maybe hurts those who are economically disadvantaged, or just leave it like that.
It hurts everyone. It hurts every citizen in the state of California, or every resident who pays a fee.
I think the point here, though, is to focus on those who are really hurting the most or getting hurt the most. But that's, if you want to make it clearly hurts everybody, but I think it disproportionately hurts those that need it the most. Is that okay to say? Anybody? Let's change that. Okay.
Well, I remember, we had put there that it hurt the poor. That's why, that I tried to make it in terms that there's beyond people in poverty, there's folks that need those monies.
Yeah.
Because I can say, does it hurt Alex Oseguera to not get his redemption on my bottles? The answer is no. I get that through my fee reduction, and I get through an accessible, way for me to recycle. So it does not hurt me. So I disagree with it hurts us all. It doesn't hurt me, but I can tell you it does hurt a lot of folks that need it. And I think that's what we're trying to explain here, or those that want to redeem their bottles in a different way.
Well, and if the law applies equally to everyone in the state, right, and we actually have like legal justice on everybody gets an equal treatment in the state, then it hurts everyone who can't access, right? So now you're talking about, applying different legalities. Oh, the law applies more to someone else than it does to me or my neighbors or someone who wants to get it back. So I think there should be equal justice and equal application of the law.
Okay, so I think what this says, though, is the issue of not having accessible options means that if you don't have accessible options, and I think, Commissioner Segura, you just said you have an accessible option to you. So I think, is everybody okay with number 2 as it is? And Commissioner Ward, did you want to speak to this?
Well, I think that disproportionately is the appropriate word because we've dropped the term regressive tax, and that's really
So I think 1 and
This is
2
a
are
greater
done,
there.
is what I'm hearing. Is everybody okay? Because we're at 2 hours in a minute and we're going to have to keep moving. Okay, thumbs up.
I
All
would
right.
just, one thing, please. When it's on number 2, where it says should be solved, should be solved as it disproportionately hurts the economic disadvantage, hurts the people who are economically disadvantaged.
Hurts the people. So you're adding the people. Yeah.
Exactly. That's what we mean, but it's not quite clear.
No, I like that. That's good. So, but did you want another change at the top there? The issue of not having accessible options to redeem bottle bill materials should be addressed. Are we changing that instead of solved?
I think solved is fine, but you might want to delete the before people.
Yeah. Okay, should be solved as it disproportionately hurts people who are economically disadvantaged. I like that. Thank you, Vice Chair. You see those people all day, I know. It's hard to see. Okay. Everybody's good on 1 and 2. Those are done. We can take them off in green and stop tracking changes on 1 and 2. And then number 3, redemption centers and multi-material buyback centers foster source separation, generally resulting in reduced contamination, period. As more of these centers close, Californians have a reduced ability to redeem source-separated bottle bill materials. Any thoughts on that? If not, anybody in the chat want to speak to this? Or can we just accept those changes? Okay, we'll go ahead and accept those changes. Thank you very much, Commissioner Segura, for taking the time to look at this. I really appreciate it. So I know this is sensitive. We want to keep everybody together. I'm proud of this report.
Believe me, it was hard. I'm trying to say, okay, who would say this and trying to get that balance. Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, it is. Okay, so then we say that these problems have been evident since 2013 and only gotten worse with the loss of many recycling centers. Urgent action is overdue. We repeat our calls for immediate action to increase redemption opportunities in California. So again, this is kind of is what I had told Senator Eggman's staff was coming. So now we can move on at 10 o'clock to Let's Stop the Fires. This was our first section in the last report. We haven't changed much. We can go down a little bit. I'm not seeing any comments or questions here. Again, oh, here we go. So we were encouraged that a bill was introduced to require EPR for batteries by Senator Newman, but we have, unfortunately, and I think we could say that only because this group did actually recommend it for HHW products, but we don't have to say, unfortunately. Commissioner Segura, I think, did you have a comment on that? I thought you did. Maybe I was wrong.
I think I just put a comment it seemed like it was a double thing. It said product stewardship programs, and then it said extended producer responsibility programs. And I think that's where I kind of made the comment, Chair Sanborn, that we're using two things and then we describe it. So people look at it and say, well, what's one versus the other? So on one of them I had just mentioned, and I think it was on page 28, but not another number, but it was California has required product stewardship programs for specific products. I think that's, you don't have to say both of them. It's, or you can choose one or the other, but it just being repetitive. I think that's the only thing I changed.
I agree, and I think we should just say extended producer responsibility, and I know some people really hate that term, but it is what it is, and that's what they call it all over the world. So
it just make it, for me, it was just making it, right, just so that as we talk about it, it's
right.
Yes.
So is everybody okay with unfortunately? Because that really was something I think in concept we all agreed on, was that we needed some sort of producer responsibility for batteries, and it didn't even get out of the Appropriations Committee in the first house. So I would just accept that, Commissioner Ward, unfortunately, unless somebody says different. At the bottom then, if the real threat of lethal fires, harm to workers, and closing MRFs and other essential public facilities are not considered urgent to address, we are unsure what would be deemed urgent. I was trying to make a strong statement there that we are essential workers in this industry. We are having, I'm sure you've all seen about the fire in Phoenix and how much damage was done at their MRF that they think was from a battery. This is just escalating our costs, our dangers to the system. And, you know, this is about as urgent as it gets, is to get the fires under control. So is everybody okay with that? Looks like it. Okay. So we can just keep scrolling down. Seeing here's a change. Okay, the last one. The commission intends to advise on the definition of quote unquote circular economy in future reports. Since the governor has used the term multiple times in the budget revision, while California has not yet adopted an official definition. So what, this might not be the right wording or the right place, but what Commissioner Ward and I were trying to say was, we want to take this up in future reports, that there really has been, in California law, there's the Ellen MacArthur Foundation definition that most people use and what I certainly refer to, but it's not in California law. It's being used more and more in the public sphere, and it's probably something we should advise on, that it be defined. But maybe we're wrong. Anybody have a thought on that? Commissioner Schneider?
My apologies, Chair. This actually goes back to your comment about batteries. Right now, when I look at all the funding coming from the feds, the states, the term equity is driving everything. So for my city, we don't qualify as equity and we're not qualifying for funding. When you have a MRF fire or a truck fire, you are largely having, not the truck fires, but the MRF fires are probably in a community of concern or close to it. Maybe we want to add one more thing that says these fires are most endangering our environmental justice communities, or something, whatever's truthful in that, because that's the lens right now. We're not even going to get cap and trade money for urban forestry unless you're an equity community. And some of us are arguing, what does equity community mean? But equity is that big thing right now. And maybe that'll mean the legislation will say, it's not enough that a driver might die, but if that MRF catches on fire and downwind from that is a low-income community or a school, damn it, we better take care of this.
Does anyone have any thoughts on that?
And I can hold on that. It's just my frustration in trying to bring money into my community, and how almost every funding tool right now has an equity lens. And maybe it should, but.
Yeah, it should. Commissioner Lapis?
No disagreement with what Ann was saying, but just going back to the sentence, you know, we also use the term circular economy repeatedly in the report. I just did a control F for circular and got 40 results. Mm-hmm. So I just think it sounds a little weird for us to say, oh, the legislature's using this term repeatedly, and it's not defined, when we're kind of doing the same thing.
Well, because we're
not really a policy disagreement. I just thought it sounded a tiny bit weird.
Well, we did say that we are using the Ellen MacArthur Foundation definition, so we at least qualified what we're referring to. I'm not sure that's happened at the state level. And so that's, I think, only that Commissioner Ward and I were saying, we're getting into this the timing where we probably need to get it in law. Maybe it needs to, maybe it'll come up in a bill this year. I don't know. But if we keep referring to it everywhere, we should probably have it in law somewhere in California. Because I know that there are people that want to define circularity in ways that I don't agree with. And I'm getting more and more concerned that the regenerative, being regenerative of natural systems is being completely lost in the discussion a lot. Yeah.
I appreciate you adding suggestions, Nick.
Yeah, that's good. Maybe we should say here that the commission, again, has on page whatever where we did define it, we're using the Ellen MacArthur Foundation definition, but might be good for the governor and legislature to define it somewhere. But again, that's not in this report, just saying it's something we're going to discuss in the next report. Okay. So if you don't disagree with the concept of bringing it up here, then we just make sure we get the words right. The commission has referred to the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. I think it's a little, no Mac, I think it's a little MC.
Thank you.
A-U-R, MacArthur, maybe? No, that's not right.
We can double check it later.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So in concept, is this right?
Literally at the next section, so it's right below.
Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
There it is. MacArthur.
Oh, there, yeah. Okay, there you go. Okay.
And it might make sense to move this whole sentence actually to the top of that next section.
I was just thinking that too. That's like John Davis's suggestion. Okay, so shifting to a clean and circular economy. The commission has referred to the Ellen MacArthur Foundation's definition.
We can delete that since it's right below.
Agreed.
Yeah. The commission intends to advise on the definition of circular economy, quote unquote, in future reports. Since the governor and legislature have used the term multiple times in the budget revision, while California has not yet adopted an official definition. That sounds weird.
Maybe intends to further advise on an appropriate definition.
Yeah. I know what appropriate adds though. Advise on the definition of the future reports, since the governor and legislature have used the term multiple times in the budget revision. I would just leave it there. I don't know if we want to say it's not yet adopted. It's almost judgmental. I think it's just a point. It's just probably at the time that we should do it.
And we should strike the word revision because it's in the budget.
Yeah, got it. As of yesterday. The Ellen MacArthur, okay, and then we give the, okay, so then we're using the, let me talk, okay, so I think that's good. Is everybody okay with that? Anybody have problems with that green sentence, and we can just accept it and move on? Okay, so why don't we go ahead and accept that and move on? Okay, so we'll scroll down and see where here. Okay, so here's a comment from Commissioner Sky. In addition to establishing systems to reduce fire hazards and discards, the Commission believes definitive action is required to systematically remove chemical contaminants and products that have proven to be problems for the state's recovery infrastructure and personnel. Okay, so Commissioner Sky says from this paragraph to the end of this section, the text is actually more aligned with the next section. However, that would leave this section very short, and we should have a lot to say about the importance, I can't read it anymore.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. The importance of shifting to a clean and circular economy. So do we want to add language here, Commissioner Sky, about a clean and circular economy and move this section? Is that the suggestion?
Yes.
Okay. So do you have any thoughts on adding language at this point?
Knowing now that, as Commissioner Lapp has mentioned, we talk about circular economy throughout the document, maybe we can just add a sentence at the end of this section, or what will be the end of this section, about many of the proposals in this report build on the concept of a circular economy.
And we should, makes me think, that was kind of the intent of the logo on the front, and we never discussed the logo and the meaning of it. But that basically, maybe we should have a sentence about that, that the logo on the front of our report indicates that we're shooting for achieving a circular economy in California.
You could add a second sentence. This is reflected in the logo the commission chose for this report.
Mm-hmm. Many of the proposals in this report strive to move California towards a circular economy as indicated by the commission's logo on the cover page, or as graphically depicted by. You're really good at wordsmithing, Commissioner Sky, if I got it right. Maybe you want to change it.
I think Commissioner Ward got it.
As reflected as adopted commission logo on the cover of this report. Perfect. Okay, and then we want to move this other little bit.
Now we're moving
Yeah,
this
if you
whole
want to read through it, and then if you agree, I think that the next few paragraphs more relate to contamination, which is in the...
We're not moving that whole section, are we, Commissioner Ward?
No, that's what I'm trying to get clear of. I just highlighted it, but this is the setup to the contamination proposal.
Right, and if you scroll in the very next section.
Ah, so you think here?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we'll try that. Do you want to move the counterproductive incentives as well?
No, I think that policy is related to a circular economy.
Okay.
But the text about contamination is more related to contamination.
Isn't it just though the section that he highlighted? I don't think it's the whole section.
Oh, so it's not the whole bit. It's just this part?
Just the yellow part.
Yeah, from where the highlight starts to the end of the section, just above the policy.
Do I have the right highlight?
Yep.
From that section all the way to the end.
Oh, all the
Because
way.
all of this is, yeah, all of these bullets are related to contamination.
I see. Sorry, Dan. I confused you.
Please, Commissioner Sky, tell me when I have the right amount of. This it?
Exactly.
Okay. And you want it here?
I think so, unless you want to put it just below this, the intro.
Okay. Well,
let's go up and see where we've left the section above, and then we can fuss with this. So many of the proposals in the report strive to move California towards circular economy is reflected in the adopted commission logo on the cover of this report. The proposal that follows will help reduce contaminating materials and products in our recovery programs. Is everybody okay with that?
Well, that the counterproductive incentives is to reduce incentives for waste generation and disposal and promote source reduction reuse.
That work?
Caught all that. That's great. Yeah.
And then we can accept that change on the side. Okay. Page 18. So you can go ahead and accept Kobe's thing on the side, right? Yeah, Commissioner Davis?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was checking something, but when the three key pillars of MacArthur Foundation, which you already went past.
They're there.
Yeah, it's keep materials in use, not in motion.
Ah, good. Okay.
Thank you.
Love it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I've seen it both ways, so glad you caught that.
Chair,
But from the
requested.
link, it's from that link. It's right there.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you. Okay, so now we're at keep compost clear of contaminants, and we've moved all this down. So it says, in addition to establishing systems to reduce fire hazards and discards, the commission believes definitive action is required to systematically. Yeah. Oh, that might work really well there. Is everybody okay with it? See nodding? Okay. And then we can scroll down. I think there was one adding. Yeah. So there was an added here, like conversely, respond to initiatives to include materials and products that do not meet California standards for recyclability or compostability.
This was the opposite of taking things off the list. This is adding things back onto the list.
Mm-hmm. I'm fine with that. Is everybody okay with that? Okay, so we can go ahead and accept that. Looks like everybody's good there. And then Commissioner Ward?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Biological break necessary.
Absolutely not an apology needed. Why don't we go ahead? I was just about ready to ask. So we're at page 19. We've gone through 19 pages. So we're doing really well. Why don't we take 10-minute break? I know that is a favorite of Commissioner Segura, and we will be back here at 25 after the hour. All right. So you might want to turn off your screens and your mic. Is everybody there? Okay.
Thank you.
Heidi, we had one public comment.
Okay, why don't we go ahead and read the public comment, please?
All it says is, will the corrected version be posted on the Google Doc site?
I thought it was being made live.
It is.
It's literally there, and you can watch us make the changes as they're being made. So if you go to the CalRecycle webpage for the commission and click on Commission Documents, it will take you to the Google Documents. Then you go under the full commission. Under that folder, it's a folder called report number 2, I believe. And you open that up, and it's literally being made live. So everybody can follow along as we are. Okay, so let's get back so we can get this over. I'd love to end early today. I know a lot of us don't like to go 4 hours if we can avoid it. So let's see if we can keep punching through this. And thank you again, Commissioner Ward, for doing an amazing job doing this live.
Yeah.
Okay, so we ended on right here. So this is under the section, numerous products are harmful to the environment. I think this is on contamination of organics, correct?
Yes, and again, these are suggestions from Commissioner Osabuena.
Okay, so let's look at these. So I'm deleting municipal services, including materials collection and processing, with so many products and materials used in commerce today. Commissioner Segura, you want to say something to this about?
It was just cleaning it up. It seemed that once again it was mixing a couple of things together. I think the point the commission wanted to make, and obviously, you know, trying just to here to help in terms of the language, but so there's numerous products that are harmful to the environment. The current system of passing legislation product by product is cumbersome and time consuming, and white governments have passed framework legislation, right? I mean, and so I'm just trying to get that cleared up, and that's really here what I tried to do here. And then the last one I deleted was the efforts to enact such framework has been unsuccessful in California. It's just kind of makes the assumption that everyone agrees with those. And so I think I try to provide clarity in that paragraph to what we would like to do and why there's a need for enhancements and improvements. And that's what I try to do. So I guess I'll leave it at that.
Okay, well, I would suggest, if everybody's okay with it, that we agree with all the changes at the top and accept them. The only thing I'd like to do is, I do agree we don't want to imply anybody is in any position of, again, just trying to state a fact that there has been efforts that go back literally 10 years to when Wesley Chesbrough was in the legislature to enact framework legislation that have been unsuccessful in California to date. It's just a fact.
I'm
There's
fine
a
with
way-
that. Yeah, I'm fine with that. Heidi, I was just trying to clear the paragraph up.
Yep. So, yeah, you can go ahead and agree with those top ones. And then at the bottom, I would take off the green and maybe we reword it. So we're just making, if there was any way it could be interpreted to be in, it's not a recommendation at all. It's just saying, maybe we just say prior California legislative attempts at passing framework legislation to date have been unsuccessful, or just, okay. Yeah, that's perfectly fine with me. Does that say it? Okay, Commissioner Luciger? Great. All right, so we got that.
I did retain the last part of that because I felt that the system's not moving fast enough to end contamination and then increasing costs.
I like it. I like what you did, Commissioner.
Is that all
Wood.
right?
I think everyone agrees with that paragraph.
Thank you.
Okay. Then we're on the waste hierarchy, prevention first. So let's keep going here and look at the changes and tracts that people have given us, unless somebody wants to chime in. So this is Commissioner Ward. Is this the Commissioner Ursaguras, I think? So this is fine.
I don't think so.
No, not you? Okay, so let's see.
Small changes have been made here. So if you're okay, we can accept.
Well, let's see. Finding ways to support or foster growth of businesses that prevent waste and keep goods in circulation will be essential to a circular economy. Commission has discussed but not yet reached consensus regarding the policy concepts for financial support and constructive engagement with a wide range of businesses and nonprofits that provide services to prevent waste, keep goods in circulation. In the coming year, the Commission will solicit suggestions from representatives of these sectors regarding ideas on how California might better foster growth. Yeah, so this is the discussion that we had about this last time. And I think I definitely want to work with Commissioner Ward on this in the next session. I think how we communicate with our nonprofits, most of them are nonprofits that are out there doing this reuse and repair work. We really need to make sure we don't do anything to hurt them and bring them in, but we do need data and we need to figure out how to help them more. So we can maybe, unless people have any suggestions to that top paragraph in green, we can accept it.
Okay.
It's based on the conversation we already had last meeting. Okay, and then the Commission was given many tasks and our first year was unable to accomplish everything we wished we could. One of our greatest regrets is we were unable to finalize more policies to support waste prevention. We offer, and I just want to confirm that that's true. I mean, to me, Ted, that's true, but I want to make sure with all of you, we all wish we could have done more on waste prevention. It's a really hard thing to give recommendations on. So make sure, okay. We offer 3 key policies to reduce waste through the right to repair, restoring successful bottle refilling programs, which just reminded me, Ted, on the spreadsheet, right to repair also died. So we need to make sure that that is accurately reflected. And restoring successful bottle refilling programs and suggestions to protect the integrity of the term. We should probably put in quotes, reusable, with respect to food service packaging. There is much more to do, and we encourage anyone to offer suggestions to the Commission to expand our recommendations with respect to waste prevention. Does that pretty much sum up how we feel about that? And we hope we can do more in the future? Okay, great.
I think that the substance is good, but I'm wondering if we can use a slightly more editorially neutral tone on that second paragraph. It just feels a little weird to say one of our greatest regrets.
Well, that's why I'm saying I want to highlight this to make sure everybody's.
I agree. And we also have the word respect almost back to back in 2 sentences.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so we offer 3 key policies to reduce waste through right to repair, restoring successful bottle refilling programs, and suggestions to protect the integrity of the term reusable, and association with food service packaging. There's much more we can do with respect to waste prevention. To expand our, why don't we just say our recommendations on waste prevention? That's shorter, yeah. Is everybody okay with that? Thumbs up, okay. All right, I think we can move on unless I hear otherwise. All right, so we'll just keep scrolling down. And here we have green. So this is under label restriction to stop plastic bag film contamination and curbside recycling. In addition to producers being responsible to prevent contaminants from entering the recycling and composting systems, the Commission supports producers having more direct responsibility to develop markets for the discarded materials from their products and packaging. Is that something we can all agree on? Do we all think the producers should have more direct responsibility for developing markets for their products and packaging? Is there anybody who doesn't agree with that? Okay, so I guess we'll leave that there. Great. And then Commissioner Davis, you say that the carpet stewardship program, the Commission has made some specific recommendations. Is that a comment you want to add or just a note?
Well, it just seemed like it was hanging there, and then we address it more fully in the market development section. So, but if we're gonna enumerate every policy that touches on producer responsibility, there's a lot more to add in here. So it was just kind of a tack on that doesn't need to be there.
Yeah, my thought on that, John, was that this is the one policy that directly relates to an existing product stewardship program, and I just didn't see a way to address product stewardship and then somehow leave this one out, even though I acknowledge it's a program.
Okay.
Why don't we
it just
just
seemed and acknowledge
the Commission had some specific recommendations that came from the Market Development Committee. Bam, and then there it is, the policy 11.
Oh, yeah, it's included in the market development section. There's a discussion in the market development.
Right, but the policy.
I mean, we have our recommendations, but we also include there's a discussion as well.
Is this duplicative? Would you like it removed or?
Recommendation. Well, I guess that was, well, I have 2 things. One is it's not the only other producer responsibility recommendation, but Ted pointed out it's an existing program, so
right,
that's different.
Well,
But
maybe
there
we
are
should
other producer responsibility. We had one on their role in market development, an entire recommendation. But
for the existing carpet stewardship program, the Commission had some specific recommendations that came from the Market Development Committee, and there it is, policy 11. Okay, so can we delete John's comment then? And,
okay.
Okay.
You know.
And then we'll look at the market development section. Okay, so getting there from here.
Yeah, remember those when we get there. Right.
Okay. So let's, so this is getting there from here and all the tasks we've been given by the legislature. And the latest data we double checked with CalRecycle, there's nothing more current. Okay, so here's a section.
Did you mean to have a page break there?
We will fix all the page breaks and stuff when we're all done because the edits that are there affect everything.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so California has required. Okay, so this is the comment about, is it product stewardship? Is it EPR? And people really don't understand the difference, although there are differences. Stewardship is about, it could be voluntary. They could be, you know, waste, they could be downsizing something, but EPR is very clearly a mandated producer must do that, blah, 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 blah. Stewardship, though, has been used on the mattress, the paint, and the carpet, and they're all visible fees. I consider the producer responsibility, the true EPR original is the Pharma bill. That's one of the best examples of a true EPR bill, but it's all shades of gray. So, and then some people would say it's the bottle bill. So the California has required, I would say EPR. I would take out product stewardship, but that's something we all have to agree on is there's no one term that everybody probably is going to agree on, except that everybody knows what EPR is. And a lot of people are unclear what stewardship is. So I would just leave it. Requiring to me means EPR.
Can we put instead of both of those, just put producer responsibility? So that way it's not as loaded, you know, with the specific definition of EPR, but does encompass the various programs.
It just doesn't align with the rest of the world, Nick. I've heard you say this several times, and I'm trying to understand the benefit of doing that. Because we don't want loaded, meaning we don't want kickback from certain individuals who don't like that term.
No, I mean, I guess just people have very specific definitions of what EPR means in their mind. And there are producer responsibility programs that are not necessarily true EPR or you know, but they're still producer responsibility programs. And I would kind of put the paint and mattress program in that category.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not it meets a definition of true EPR, it's a producer responsibility program. And I would say the bottle bill has producer responsibility elements.
Yeah. Okay, Commissioner Segura, I think wants to speak to this.
I think Commissioner Sky was first, and then I'll.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you. I was just going to suggest maybe rewording it to say California has established mandatory producer responsibility programs for a number of specific products.
That's clear and takes out the loaded part.
And Chair Sanborn, I think it's just also we as a commission have to help people understand the definitions with clarity. I hear some folks that will explain a stewardship as you explained it right now for me in my head, and they call that EPR, and I've seen folks define truly an EPR program as a, you know, as something, and so I think we at some point need to clarify that for folks.
Actually, that might be a really good thing to say that we're going to do in the future report is that we've come across this problem ourselves, is what do we call various producer responsibility programs, and that we want to tackle that in the next report. Maybe we say that because, and Commissioner Ward, maybe we could add that up top somewhere. Just I'm going to make a note of it.
Just wondering if it's the right place. Yeah, I agree. It's a worthwhile comment.
And then because if you look at the document, and then I just, you know, truly ran out of time last night. It was we have different. We use producer responsibility. We use product stewardship. It's in different ways and different all throughout the document, and I think it just creates confusion.
Well, I totally agree. I mean, I've been trying since literally 2007 to get agreement on definitions. I've held entire working groups trying to get agreement on definitions. And then a certain, like 70 of us will agree, and then others do not. And then they start using the term differently, and it's in the media differently. And then nobody again knows what's going on. So I think it's a really good thing for the commission to do to tackle this in the next report and have our agreement on what these things are. But we have to understand too, the rest of the world is using pretty similar term. They're clear on what the terminology is. We're only the ones in the United States that seem to be unclear. So if we don't align with the rest of the world, that's going to make it us talking apples and oranges. But why don't we just make a note that we will, in the future report, we plan to tackle this discussion about definitions around producer responsibility. And that we understand we might not have been as clear as we'd like to be in this report using the terms. And we could put that up under where we put the other.
Right.
We'll do in the next report.
There
then.
is product stewardship. Yep, I got that note.
Okay, me too. And it would literally be a simple sentence. It doesn't have to be. Okay, so let's go back to, so it's a really good point. And we were, I think, talking about, Kobe had made an excellent suggestion on, California has several mandatory producer responsibility programs. So we're not using EPR. Okay, so that'll literally be a simple sentence. And I'll check it with the vice chair if you guys are okay, and then if you all agree to it, then and he's okay with it, then we should be good. Ted. Okay. Anything else here? So for all EPR, for all. Now, why are we doing this? I thought.
Because we're still using the term EPR throughout the document, so we have to define it somewhere or we have to replace it. But you've got EPR checklist, it's used in abbreviation later, so.
Yep, see, that's the term CalRecycle uses, so I don't know. Because that's what the rest of the world uses. So for all EPR, okay, or product stewardship programs. Okay, so we'll just leave that for now. And then go back to where we were doing the terminology.
All right, moving on.
Yep, it was further down. Okay, here we are. Commissioner Sky, where were we exactly? You had made the suggestion. Thanks, honey. Really appreciate it. My husband's delivering food and drink to keep me going here. Okay.
I think that's fine.
State is facing a recycling crisis with the need for robust demand for materials that are collected, sorted, and recycled. And this was brought to light. Okay, so that's all right. As a result, and then deleting this whole section, recycling operations are struggling to remain viable. Yeah, that doesn't quite sound right, so we should accept that, I think.
And there's a mistake right at the end. It's lack of fully functional markets and the nearly 1,000 recycling centers that were closed. And the closure of nearly. Closure shouldn't be deleted. Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
That works?
Yep.
This is directly related to the lack of fully functioning markets and the closure of nearly 1,000 recycling centers. Yep. Okay, sounds good. And then short-lived climate pollutants section. So there's a lot of add here. So CalRecycle notes in their analysis of the progress towards SB 1383 waste reduction goals dated August 18th of 2020 that approximately 27 million tons of organic material will need to be redirected from landfills by 2025 to meet the SB 1383. Reduction goal? Do we just want to say goal? Or else we have to say organics and all that again. Okay. Organic material makes up 63% of California's waste stream, period. Or is that a comma? Comma. Including edible food, which could be recovered for human consumption, and organic materials that would need to be processed at compost, anaerobic digestion, chip and grind, or other organic waste processing facilities. Is everybody okay with that section?
I have a minor issue.
Okay.
I would prefer we eliminate chip and grind for the reason that Alex mentioned earlier. It's not a final composting method.
Okay. I was a little surprised to see it. I wasn't sure. I don't track organics like you guys do. Is that okay to remove chip and grind? Is everybody all right with that? Yeah, okay. So that section we can approve. Great. And then we get down to the next paragraph. CalRecycle estimates the total cost to implement the organics regulations established pursuant to SB 1383, even with significant source reduction, will require approximately. Is that true? Has that been incorporated into the tonnages? They'll still need 100 new facilities even with significant source reduction? I don't know that to be true. Can anybody speak to that?
I mean, the 100 new facilities is a pretty loose metric because scope of facilities and size of facilities varies so much. And I think what they actually say is 30 to 100 new facilities.
Okay, that's a big difference. We should say that if it says exactly 30 to 100.
But, you know, if we were to do it all with community composting, we would need 1,000. And if we were to do it all with super enormous facilities, you know, like some of the ones we have now, we could do it with way fewer. So,
Okay, so even with significant source reduction, that's the part I'm struggling with.
I
Can somebody
would
from
suggest deleting significant. The issue really is there's only so much source reduction of organic waste you can do because people are going to continue eating and doing other things that creates organic waste.
So we'll say even with source reduction. So this is assuming CalRecycle is saying in their report, and somebody tell me if this is wrong then, because I don't know it to be true, that it will require between 30 and 100 new facilities across the state. But
I think that part about source reduction is in the wrong spot because I think the report calls for between 30 and 100 new facilities.
Yeah, I don't know if they've dealt with the issue of source reduction before they came up with that number.
well, they did because there's a 20% edible food recovery. And so that based
Right.
on achieving that edible food recovery and edible food waste prevention, they're still assuming 30 to 100 new facilities.
But the edible waste prevention facilities are not anywhere in that count.
No, they're not. But my point is a significant part of the 1383 regs is waste prevention. And based on those regs, they're assuming 30 to 100 new facilities.
I would say is estimated to require. This is all a guess, I think.
I think
Well,
that's
it
fair.
starts with estimates, CalRecycle estimate.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, CalRecycle estimates the total cost. Yeah, sorry. So we we wouldn't say estimated again.
Right.
Sorry. Okay, California estimates it will require between 30 and 100 new facilities across the state to handle millions of tons of organic material, which will in turn require nearly 40 billion over the next decade, including capital investment of nearly 4 billion to develop infrastructure. That is a lot of money.
And I think Nick's point is correct that CalRecycle did want to include source reduction up front by collecting edible food, which reduces the demand on infrastructure.
But to me, even 20% is not much.
Yeah, that's why I suggested deleting significant.
Yeah. Okay, so now it reads, will require between 30 and 100 new facilities, not including food rescue, across the state to handle millions of tons of organic material. These demands will require, and then it's the costs. Is everybody okay with that? Is that accurate?
Could you clarify the difference between the costs? You've got two numbers.
Yeah, require nearly 40 billion over the decade with a capital including, I think that's 4 of 40, 4 billion being what's needed to develop infrastructure. But I don't understand.
What's the remaining 36?
Yeah.
That's the net cost of the program, not counting, sorry, not the net cost. It's the cost of the program, not counting the savings. And so, rate increases, education, all of that. I could kind of go either way. I think it's an accurate statement. I think it's slightly deceptive because the net cost was far, far less. It's only half of the equation is the 40 billion, but.
Could we change it to say fully implementing SB 1383 is estimated to cost nearly $40 billion over the next
I guess if you're going to say it, we should at least explain what that is. You know, collection, processing. You know, it's just confusing to say it's 40 billion, but it's also 4 billion.
It's literally everything related to implementation, enforcement, outreach, and education.
Yeah.
Processing, collection.
Edible food, all of that. I mean, I think this could become a very long paragraph if we wanted to list everything.
Okay.
Okay, and I'm just gonna comment, we're at 28 pages of basically 49 of the report, and if we're gonna get this done in an hour, we're gonna have to get cracking.
Okay, you can leave it.
Okay.
Okay.
So we're good with that. And let's keep going. Otherwise, we need another meeting, so let's not do that. Okay, so this section, commission recommendations. I'm going to just start basically asking anybody for their comments instead of reading everything, and assuming you've all read this and you're comfortable with it. So unless there's some edits here, it looks like there's a couple. Commissioner Ward?
I'm not sure we can be pleased as a group, but
Yeah,
stuck
it was better than happy. Gratified?
Okay, so battery producer responsibility.
You know,
Commission was gratified that several of our.
I think it's more. I think it's more giving a, you know.
Okay, so what's the word?
Giving an emotion to the commission. Well, I would just say several commission recommendations.
Could we say it was promising to see that several?
Yeah, it was promising to see that several of our early recommendations. Yeah, that's nice.
Thank you.
Several of our early recommendations from December became bills over concepts introduced into the May budget revision. Okay, several bills, including commission-supported policies, were made to be two-year bills, one of our highest priorities. Battery producer responsibility. And again, I'm not sure, we did say EPR on that original policy. And that's how, yeah. I'm concerned that we're starting to water this down and not align with the rest of the world. I'll just be honest. Just because certain individuals don't like the term. But
if our proposal said EPR, we're referring to our proposal, so it's
that's what I'm
appropriate to use
thinking.
the right term.
Unless we change the proposal. And then we can get into this debate in the next report because it's going to take more time. Again, we urge legislative action. Okay, so everybody's okay with that. We're going to go with that unless we hear any otherwise. Okay, so other proposals. So due to time constraints, the Commission was not able to complete several policies. Some of these have been partially addressed by policy proposals. Topics of common concern, which remain high priorities, will be taken up, and I wouldn't say early September. I would just say in September. Or PET.
How about in 2021?
Yeah, that's fine. Well, in the fall of 2021 or whatever, when we reconvene. PET thermoforms, adding more recommendations on waste prevention, expanding infrastructure for food rescue and organics, and advising on the bottle bill. So this is also, did we want to add something here about the definition of EPR versus product stewardship here?
Oh, right. Yeah, I think so. I think this is a good place for it.
Okay.
How about in between 2 and 3?
Or just make it 5, however you want to do it.
Okay.
So it's not changing policies, it's just terminology. Does everybody agree with those 5 things as being things that we're going to take up? Is there anything we're missing that we want to signal to the legislature we're going to take up in the next part of the?
Would it be, number one, would it be PET thermoforms being collected for recycling, which requires changes? Is it only to the bottle bill CRV payment system, or would it be better to just say PET thermoforms being collected for recycling, which requires system changes? It just, for clarity, is it just that it requires?
Well, the fundamental problem, as I understand it, maybe Commissioner Donlevy can discuss this, but is the fact that the way the payment structure is on the CV program now, it's incentivizing the thermoforms to be in the bales and they're not being pulled out. And that's why we're losing so much material. So unless that funding structure is changed, it's not going to, it doesn't matter how many sorting lines and whatever we do, it's that financial incentives is pulling it into the waste stream. Is that correct, Commissioner Donlevy? Did you want to speak to that?
Yes, it falls to the definition of commingled. And the definition of commingled used to be beverage containers and bottles of the same resin type, and it was expanded to bottles and other containers of the same resin type, which expanded additional material going in the bales besides bottles. And that was, I think, with a lot of optical sorters that allowed buckets, tubs, and clamshells to go in there. So the definition of commingled will need to be changed.
But that's
so
in the bottle bill, right?
From other containers of the same resin type.
I know we have to get going. It was just a question.
Yeah,
Chair,
it's actually the definition in the bottle bill is the issue. And I think we've discussed, and I think Commissioner Lapis can speak to this too, is that it's maybe going into, hopefully, that part of the fix into the recycled content bill, because the recycled content, I know there's people have contacted me and said, I can't meet that recycled content mandate unless that bottle bill is fixed and we can get that structure changed. It's not pulling all the material into the bales. Any other thoughts? Commissioner Ward, can we go back up and just make that, unless other people want to change that? Yeah, okay, so we've accepted it. Making sure everybody's okay with that.
There are.
Yeah, go ahead.
We're going to list our upcoming, if we're going to list our upcoming topics, I think we referenced the Ellen MacArthur, working on a definition of circular economy.
Right.
Very good point.
And then in the market development section, we've referenced drywall and glass packaging.
Yeah, both of those have to come back as well. You're right. Okay, so we need 6. So that's the definition of
circular economy.
You can just make a note about definition for circular economy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say well, I would just put quote unquote circular economy and leave it.
Yeah.
Okay, and then 7.
7?
Yeah, because that was, what was the other one you brought up, John?
Well, each committee has
minimum content for drywall.
That's it, the drywall, the gypsum.
Oh.
Commissioner Toyota and I are going to bring that back after we work with the Gypsum Association.
Minimum content.
Mm-hmm. And we can just leave that there too. Just we don't need to elaborate. Okay.
We also mentioned glass packaging.
Okay, so that's an 8. Commissioner Lapis? Are you done, or was that from the last, probably the last item, I guess?
That was a while ago.
Yeah, sorry.
And for clarity, these are items that we're going to bring up in September for a future report.
Yep. We've already said somewhere in this report, there are issues that are coming back. Because like for example, the gypsum, we couldn't come to agreement and the Gypsum Association came to the table. So we're going to work with them and modify the policy, hopefully, and get agreement and then bring it back in December.
Okay, so for number 4, continuing to advise on the bottle bill until it achieves best in class. We've already submitted a recommendation on the bottle bill, and I think the recycling committee spent as much time as we could on that issue. So I'm not sure that addressing it again is going to get any greater results.
Well, that could be true, and that's part of the reason it was in green. If we don't want to, I mean, at this point, we just have to see some action on the stuff we could agree on. Otherwise, I don't know what else we could do.
All right, I think we can leave it.
We haven't talked about this, but something I would like to see us tackle maybe in the next year is a analysis of the various market development programs that are out there and what works, what doesn't work. Specifically into the nitty-gritty details of here's how the PMDP works, and here are the pros and cons versus in the tire program we do X versus under the e-waste program we do Y.
Can I make a suggestion? Since we're so limited on time to finish this report, and I'm afraid we're going to run into another meeting if we don't move, is that's a brand new concept, kind of. Okay, so we could talk about it, and we can certainly put that in the next agenda, Nick. We can maybe put that as an item for the next agenda when we get to that for the September meeting.
Fair enough. And you're right, we are running out. So
I'm just a little worried we're going to have another meeting if we don't move. Okay, so illegal dumping in letter. This is something that Commissioner Ward and I added because it's become such a huge problem. In fact, Alameda County had a whole, national, it ended up being national webinar on this over 3 days. I spoke to them about the commission work and how it relates, but we think that, we wanted to say something here. We want to make sure you all agree that it's part of when the system isn't working, we get dumping. It's not just bad people that don't want to pay the bill. It's sometimes people who can't afford to, or they don't have a vehicle, and they hire somebody off Craigslist. The whole system is kind of falling apart. And I know that we even mentioned in here that the governor raised this entire issue in the budget revision and even spoke to seeing mattresses under freeways. So, we wanted to tie it in that this is all part of our work, that if the systems are working, we shouldn't be having all this illegal dumping. But we wanted to make sure you're okay with this language. Has anybody read this section? Are you okay with it or not okay with it? All right, well, if I don't hear anything, I think we'll just accept it. And then if you go back and look at it and Okay, so market development. So this is a very active part of our report. And these are sections, I believe Commissioner Davis wrote these because he's chair of that committee, most of them. Yeah. And there were some edits here.
Yeah.
So promoting effective collection systems. And I guess again, I'd be fine accepting all of these unless people haven't read it or want to have a minute just to look at it, because again, this is our last.
Yeah, just on that, Ted, on that change of effective rather than competitive, the statute actually says competitive.
So yeah, we should use exactly what the statute says, yeah.
Yeah.
And thank you for reflecting on the law all the time, Commissioner Davis. You're very diligent about that. Thank you. Okay. Why is 1066 in yellow?
I want to add a link to it. That's what I've done when we refer to laws.
Gotcha.
It is. the footnote, there's a footnote.
I'll use the footnote
can-
and I'll make
you
it a
can
link.
change it. Yeah, and there's another one on 939 as well.
I think I fixed that one.
There was. Oh, okay, all right.
I fixed one of them. They obviously occur many places. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So this, and I'm not seeing any comments or waving hands, so I'm assuming this is all good, so we can go ahead and accept all this. And Commissioner Toyota, making sure we did okay on our finishing up on the gypsum and everything. And the forests.
There's also, this is where just a reminder that the carpet falls back in here.
Did we not
Was
mention
referenced
carpet
earlier.
here?
Yeah, it is here, but it's also earlier. I'm just reminding you that it was kind of hung out there at the end of that section.
Is you're moving really fast?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was trying to find where the carpet was.
Okay. So.
Oh, there it is. There it is.
The top of 30.
Yeah, there it is.
Ted, one thing to be mindful of is when you're accepting all these and you're making all the text black, the links that were blue to show you that they were links will lose that formatting, so you'll have to go back and fix it.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm getting very
And
busy.
Ted, there's a footnote at the bottom. There's a footnote at the bottom of 37. So if you're to be consistent, you want to pull that on that Connecticut bill.
Thank you. All right,
Okay.
so
Is there
That's
anybody
right,
that has any edits to the market development section? Hopefully you've all read it. If you're okay with the green, then we'll accept it. There's a lot there.
there it is.
Okay, I'm not seeing any comments, so I think, or hearing anything, so we'll go ahead and accept all these track changes in the market development section. If you do that, though, you're going to end up with losing all those other colors, Ted. I don't know if you want to do that now.
I'll do it later. That's fine.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Okay, so we're agreeing to the market development section text. Do we have any comments from the public, by the way, Ben? I'm not hearing you or seeing anything in the chat, so I assume no. Okay.
No, we do not.
Okay. Then we can move on to, let's see, we're on page 38.
We're waste prevention, food waste prevention. This is in the last report.
Okay. Food
Food
rescue.
rescue.
No changes there. On-site community composting. No changes there. Preventing waste is keeping products and materials in circulation. Any changes there. And this gets into the reuse, repair, all that. I do see one under 41 there on 10. Oh my gosh.
There we are. Yes.
Sorry, I have to reach an education Yeah. Perfect.
Isn't that a repeat of an earlier comment? Was this paragraph the same earlier?
No.
I
Oh,
remember-
it does
I remember
cover
us going
much of
over
the
this.
same territory. Let's see.
I think it seemed like the same.
Yeah, I don't want to have a lot of duplication.
And I don't have, my point, yeah, well, my point was if you revise the earlier paragraph, you have to go back and look at it.
I think if we delete that middle bit, it'll work. How's that?
Finding ways to
there you
support
go.
foster
Okay.
growth. Good. So we want it shorter, and we can accept that little green bit there because that doesn't have any blue in it, and then on. Okay. So now and that was the rate to repair, which unfortunately the only bill we had in that died. The recommendations to improve recycling. So we're on page, let's see, scroll down.
42.
So we're getting there. All right. What is recyclable? Okay, so needs context languages. I think let me see. The commission used the data in the spreadsheet and the Google Documents to determine what is recyclable. We encourage all stakeholders to review the data, inform us what information might be missed. So the one thing I continue to hear, and we just had in the comments that we raised earlier today, is that they don't feel that we've provided enough data and so forth. And we've provided the spreadsheet, and I believe they can see, Commissioner Dell, the formulas, right? They can see. I just want to make sure we're all clear what we've given everybody to track what we're doing. I don't know what else we could give them to make sure that they understand all of this. So maybe we can take out that needs context language, our comment. If we don't want context language, we don't have to have it. Yeah, reference on page 14, we don't have to say that every time things are mentioned. That's fine. Okay, so then let's keep scrolling down. Recommendations, okay, on improving organics materials management. So this is a lot of green. Who wrote this?
This came from the Organics Committee and was dropped in. So,
okay, let's hold right there. How is everybody doing with this organics section? Are there any comments or concerns about this organics introduction? Hearing none. Oh, go ahead.
It references the 100, yeah, it also references, I think, the 100 facilities that'll need to be. So if you scroll down a little bit, it should just match up with what we changed before.
Yeah.
TowerCycle has estimated that meeting, yeah, right there. So.
Well, and I get concerned when we keep saying the same things over and over again, because then the chances of our not getting it straight and having conflicts in our own report increase. So if we've already got that kind of text up above, is there a reason we need it down here?
I'm fine with deleting it and saying it once.
Yeah, I am too. Is that okay with the people on that committee? Yeah, I'm hearing nods.
I do think it needs to just mention the need for infrastructure investment, because that's the main point there. So maybe just a shorter sentence. So maybe
Okay.
TowerCycle estimated.
No.
Doesn't totally work there. Okay, so
Yeah.
let's see.
Can you undo and we could just shorten that sentence significantly if you let me work with what was there before.
Okay. Yeah. I'll do the undo.
There you go.
So you could just shorten it to TowerCycle's estimated meeting the diversion targets of a SB 1383 and then delete all the way up to will require almost $4 billion of capital investment. And that's very, that's exactly consistent with what we already said before.
Like it.
Good. Shorter is better. Less is more. Okay. Anything else in this section on organics? Are we feeling good? There's a couple comments there taking out incentivizing the use of
Sure, just
orange.
to clarify on that amount, that I read earlier was 40 billion, not 4 billion. Is that, did I get that wrong?
4 billion of capital investment and 40
Okay.
billion overall.
Right. Okay, so then the use of RNG. So have we already defined RNG somewhere else?
The clarification of SB 1383 compliant is You can make renewable natural gas from landfill gas or from out-of-state gas, which are not compliant with 1383.
So is this okay? And we did define RNG somewhere else.
And I think it also specifies in the short term while the strategy is being developed. So as you develop what is intended to be developed, right, RNG, you should be using it.
Gotcha.
For me, that's fine. It seemed to be an issue there.
Okay.
Can you hold on one second? Measure. Okay. That's fine. That's fine. I'm sorry.
Okay, so if you could stop Ted for a second, we've got a public comment and you can go ahead and accept those in green, please. We did come at public comment on producer responsibility section.
Yes, we have a comment from Doug Cobold. The CPSC would like to note that the first paragraph under producer responsibilities, page 22, should be corrected. The second sentence currently reads, California has now established extended producer responsibility programs for mercury thermostats, pesticide containers, paints and stains, carpeting, mattresses, pharmaceuticals, and sharps. However, paints and stains, carpeting, and mattresses are not EPR programs. They are stewardship programs. As all three have a visible consumer fee with no financial obligation by the industries the products represent. CPSC would recommend that extended producer responsibility in that sentence be replaced with product stewardship to be more reflective of how things should be defined as the Commission just discussed. The next sentence, as currently written, starts with producer responsibility programs, so the suggested change would be appropriate. Further, the other programs listed are also stewardship programs, but they are funded by the industry, not the consumer, and the rest of the comment is published.
Okay. Let's finish this section, and this gets to our whole discussion about what we're going to do next time.
I really appreciate Doug's input, and I'd like to try to incorporate that. I'm just going to have trouble doing it on the fly.
No, I know. That's what I was thinking, especially because we're limited on time. So that was on page 22. Let's see if we can get through the rest of this and scoot back to that real quickly because we're at 22 after at this point.
Great. Okay, moving on. We've flagged that.
Yep. Okay. So we're getting close to the end. So hang in there. We're almost there.
Organics.
We did organics.
Oh, organics. Renewable. Yeah, here we are. Still continuing on organics.
Okay, so at the same time, there's a funding gap, capacity, blah, blah, blah. Is there anybody who has Commissioner Osigura?
There's just two, and we already cleaned it up. So Commissioner Ward did above at the beginning of our discussion through this document, but it says innovative programs for smaller scale compost production application on farms and ranches should be encouraged to the extent practical. I think, Commissioner Ward, I'm not looking for you to change that. It's just how do you connect that to what we just said beforehand? Remember when we try to put some parameters around what it means to do carbon sequestration at farms or land? Just so whatever we set up above makes sense down below. So you connect that. And the other is I just didn't understand and the state should assess the potential for demonstrations of decentralized and distributed organic materials recycling strategies. I didn't understand what that meant.
I'm sorry, I'm not with you yet. Where are you?
Oh, I'm right before it says combined policies 3 and 4, precautionary principle and problem products. So above there, 2 paragraphs, 2 above
what
that.
Page?
Well, I have it as page 48.
Oh, there we are. Okay.
Right above there. Yes.
Okay.
So go up above a little more. So you see where it says innovative programs?
Yep.
Yeah.
So just make sure that matches what we said, what we just changed up above. So you can use, because I think you're relating to the same thing, right? Commissioner Ward there?
Yeah. I appreciate that.
So just make sure that it makes sense. And then I just did, on the second paragraph there, it just says, and the state should assess the potential for demonstrations of decentralized and distributed organic materials recycling strategies. I don't know what that means.
So I can tell you in the rural areas, part of the concern is that we're going to be required to use centralized facilities that are far away, and we're shipping those materials at great expense and carbon reduction. So there's interest in rural areas to have facilities that are closer at hand and necessarily more suited to the scale that we need.
And I'd be fine with the statement you just made. It just, as you clean up the language there, I think when people read that, they're not going to have any, not everyone, Ted, I think folks might be able to, but I don't know if everyone's going to understand what that specifically means or what you just said.
Okay. I hear what you're saying. You'll allow me to try to address that. I will.
Yeah, try to address that.
Okay, we'll keep going and see if we can get through this and go back and clean some of these up. Labeling in media. Is there anything in labeling in media that anybody had issue with or wants to change, or Commissioner Dell, if you wanted to raise anything here, want to make sure you're okay with this. Looks like there's one comment from John Davis out of paragraph.
I don't know how I got there.
Okay. Well, that's what we asked, just in case.
Delete me. Yeah, we remove it.
Oh, no, we're keeping you for sure. Okay. So then we can accept all those changes, I guess, under
Yeah,
labeling.
just put in a paragraph.
Thanks, John.
Guys are getting punchy now. Okay, so we've got, okay, now that's it then, except for a couple of the policies. I think Commissioner Osagura, you had a comment on one of the very last ones, I think.
It just, can you guys juice on my earphones? Can you hear me still?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Those were just cleanup ones, Heidi. So on the one, it was about EPR. So you already addressed that we're going to have to take a look at how we define it in the future. So that was it. So, and I think it was like on page 100, it was something. Page
Can we go there
100.
real quickly? Just, I really want to get as much through this together as we possibly can, because I don't want to make judgments on this alone or just with Ted and I.
That was it. On page.
Why has it deleted the supermarket sites? What's that policy? Why does it have deletions?
This is cleanup language or regulations. This is part of the proposal and changes to the model book.
Okay.
So
It's like,
it's
oh, no,
appropriate.
okay.
And then on page 190, it's just the same thing, Commissioner Ward. It's we kind of changed up the language regarding farming carbon sequestration, and so just taking a look to make sure that it's in alignment with what we changed up above.
I see.
So I didn't change language. I just highlighted it for you. It's on page 190.
Right.
In the you'll see it. It's in green for me, but it reads planning and carbon farming to further help carbon sequestration and market demand.
Right. Here we are.
Yes. So just make sure it's in alignment with what we changed up above that everyone agreed to. If you just take a look at
We have time. Let's see if we can do this real quickly, because I really don't want to be changing this after we're not public.
Okay.
Makes me nervous.
Yeah,
copy and paste from what we set up above down below and you're good.
Yeah. But we're okay with the bullet. The CalVercycle should actively participate in further development of okay. Yeah. Invasive species or pathogens. No. Okay, excellent. So we can accept that. And then that's done. Okay. Is there anybody else that has any other comments or concerns about any of the policies? So the green should be gone, basically. Ted, I saw you just skip through. There's some green there we can accept. Yeah, along wildland and urban boundaries. Is everybody okay with that? Yeah. And Cal Recycles? Okay, let's accept those.
I have a question.
Oh, sure, go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead. Commissioner Davis.
Oh, so if you go to page 51, the list of policies.
Okay, let's make sure. So Ted, are you okay? We've got everything there.
Yep.
Okay, so go back to page 51.
Yeah.
We had approved those changes when we reviewed the policies earlier, so this is now copied into the report, so we'll have to fix it.
Right, that's consistent. I was editing the policies themselves, and I'll have to recopy those to the back. 51, you said?
Yeah.
Page 51. Right there.
Oh.
Yeah. Go up. Yeah. Go to 15.
15.
Policy 15.
The original 20? Wait.
Oh.
There you go.
This one? Actually, I had a question on that.
Commissioner Davis?
No, well, Ted probably has the same question, because we linked to, remember 15 was adopted and then it was revised. And so you've actually got two policies there. Did we replace the original one, or do we have something hanging out there called anti-greenwashing policy?
No.
I think we modified the original.
They seem to be two different policies to me, but they both involve the title, what is recyclable? So it seemed crazy to separate them. But they are kind of two different documents.
Where did they come from? Did they both come out of the recycling committee?
They did.
Commissioner Dunleavy, can you please help us?
Yeah.
Okay, with what are you looking for help on?
We've got policy 15, what is recyclable, but it was previously named anti-recycling or anti-greenwashing policy, determine, identify what is recyclable. This is probably the most important thing we've got, and there's confusion here as to what is I remember adopting what is recyclable at the last meeting.
Yeah.
So the greenwashing thing is gone. I think that was an old meeting.
That replaced the earlier policy, I think, too.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, so we've got the what is recyclable.
Yes. And so Commissioner Dunleavy just making sure we've got the right final version dropped in here.
So did this anti-greenwashing policy get folded into that updated other one?
Yes. It's my recollection.
That was my recollection too. You can't have two, and this would be a really big mistake if we have.
So I can entirely delete this one, is what I'm hearing.
Yes.
Okay, I'm happy to do that.
Commissioner Lapis, you good, because that was one of yours.
I'm just nervous. This isn't the labeling committee recommendation, is it?
Anti-greenwashing came from the recycling committee. Nick, this is one of yours.
Yeah, no,
But we heard it through December.
Yeah, that's old because the dates on there they do not include the 2021 dates that were on the policy that was revised by Commissioner Lapis, myself, Commissioner Davis had comments. So this one is truly old.
Can we look at the purpose on this real quick? Just scroll down just a smidge. Okay, right up. Purpose. I just want to make sure this is the chasing arrows. And this got rolled into ensure residential commercial recycling that is capable of recycling.
That if you read the introduction to policy 15, it's virtually the same language.
Right. So that shouldn't have been put in there. Yep.
Yeah, Heidi, that was the exact thing I was worried about. I just want to make sure it's not the Chasing Arrows recommendation. That's what I meant.
So which one
but I don't
for
think it is.
now? What's the current one which I almost think we should call it Chasing Arrows because that's really how we think about it. Try to remember which policy in the current.
This is the list. It links the list to the Chasing Arrows. That's all. But
this is the definition of what is recycling. This is the old version of it. What is recycling?
No. What we're looking at is the current
this is the new
policy.
That's the new one.
But the anti-greenwashing is old.
Correct.
All right, I'll delete that one. Thank you.
That's a huge catch. I think we had it yellow, Ted, because we were going to ask everybody about that just to make sure. Ted actually put everything into the report. I would have kept them all separate because I had them all PDF'd in a thing, this is why, because it gets a little mushed up, but this is good. I'm glad we got it. I think we got it, and it's easier for you all to follow if they're all in one place. So I think there's a public comment, and we are now 20 minutes out.
Yes, it's from Gail Bryce at XT Green. It says the comments regarding carpet are separated into two policy discussions. Please consider moving the carpet comment included in policy 2108 for mix C and D into the carpet discussion so the excellent thought doesn't get lost. Thank you.
I don't think it's going to get lost, Gail. I think it's, I see your point, but at some point all this cross-referencing makes it almost impossible to finish the report because there's so much overlap. So I don't know if, Commissioner Davis, are you okay if we just leave it as is, or do you want to?
I'm not sure I understood.
I think she's just saying that in the C and D policy that to talk about, because they're so related to getting carpet clean, that should we cross-reference it at this late hour? I'm not sure that's something that's going to help us.
Yeah, we have to. No.
Okay. Okay, so we've cleaned up the hanging chad of an old policy on the greenwashing, which really turned into the what is recyclable, which is what we adopted as a final reading at the last meeting. We did have Doug Cobol's comments on page 22, so I'd like to go back to that real quickly and see if we can clean that up. Yeah, and that has to go. Exactly. Great. Much cleaner. And then there's those things there to clean up. Are those easy to clean up, Commissioner Ward? The ones that you just had in yellow, those are, it's just wording and aligning with what we did somewhere else, correct? I can't hear you, but I think that's what you're saying.
Yes, I think that's all doable, and I think the discussion about the concern about contaminants in using organics and carbon farming is, I understood, and we make those changes.
Okay, so then we'll just go to the one public comments at page 22. This whole EPR product stewardship thing. And we already had that we were going to add a note regarding clarity and definitions. Here's what I would suggest.
Yeah.
The few things that we have highlighted in yellow that we have to go back and kind of tweak and fix the wording, but we've been clear in this video, and this video will be posted so everybody can rewatch it, on what it is we were doing with those or aligning with existing language that we already changed elsewhere, is to let Commissioner Ward and I just do that very quickly by the end of today and send the whole commission an email. It's finished, it's done. You can double check those things. We're going to be preparing the email to send out to the legislature and Cal Recycle and EPA. And this is, if you don't think we got it right, type your comments on the document or do what Commissioner Ostergart did, download the whole thing and track your changes, however you get it to us. But the intent is clear, and I think this is very much ready outside of those 3 minor things. And I see nodding heads. How are you all feeling? That's a lot of work. This is very important and a lot of people are watching this. Just want to make sure everybody's sitting okay with where we are right now. If there's anybody who'd like to comment. Yeah, thumbs up.
Great work, Commissioner Ward and Chair Sanborn. I mean, it's a lot of work going through it, and sometimes you start reading it and you don't know what you. I mean, it's 200 pages, so it takes time. But I think we're there, as there as we'll ever get.
Yeah, it's too bad we can't. Well, maybe now we can get together for a happy hour after we submit this.
I know I am, Chair Sanborn. In about an hour. I'm on vacation, so I'm ready.
You're there. Commissioner Davis? And then Commissioner Ward.
Well, 2 things. There's the yellow marks in the organic section that you're going to go back to the talk about the trade-off between composting and vehicle miles. You know that section, Ted?
Yeah.
There's been a lot of demonstration over the years that you can, I think Sally Brown says you could drive a load of organic material from Tacoma to Patagonia and compost it and offset all the vehicle miles. So you don't overemphasize the distance. The cost part of it is a big deal, but and I guess I'm trying to head off a rewrite that I might have to comment on and try to explain. It's not. It's really the GH. I see those comments all the time, but I've heard a lot of evidence to the contrary. That, vehicle miles on the big picture is a big deal, but when you're offsetting the benefits of compost, particularly on the short life climate bloom factor, the vehicle mile reduction is minuscule. So
I was going to make the exact same
and
comment.
then I thought, yeah, and I wanted to acknowledge the help that Kate Wilkins has been to the Market Development
she's been
Committee.
very
And
helpful.
I know she's worked with another committee, and I wonder if somehow in the report we want to specifically acknowledge the people who've been working so closely with us on top of their other work.
This is where track changes is really helpful before the meeting. We're at the place, I think at the beginning, we talk about thanking staff. And I think at the end, we can all say, thank you, thank you, thank you. I mean, Zoe, Kate, Ben, everybody's been fantastic. And we can't thank you all enough for your support. We could never have done this without you. But is there language changes, Commissioner Davis, that you want to give Commissioner Ward and I to finish this?
Well, if we're okay acknowledging them, yeah, I can do that. I didn't know if that was going to
not
be
that, 'cause
appropriate.
that's already in the report. But I mean, well, we can do a few things.
Oh, on the yellow?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, on the yellow part, on page 47.
Page 47.
Because if you have questions, now's the time. We've got a couple of minutes. I'd rather just get it done now and not guess.
Okay.
Let's pull it up, Commissioner Ward, and see if we can. All right, because this is last call for changes to the report.
I'm
47.
Looking at it.
Okay. Is this the area? Those are the only 2 areas I saw with the yellow still that needed changing. So are you going to stay in the yellow section? Commissioner Davis, did you want to give us suggested changes?
Yeah, I'm trying to, well, it may have been changed already.
So I want to be sure.
Yeah, there's no mention of vehicle miles. Right.
Commissioner
There's
Lapis,
no mention now of vehicle miles.
because you said you had the same concern, but I don't see the language there.
There was
There was.
There were rural bullets.
There was a somewhere in here there was that section that I had the exact same thought, and I just, I don't know, decided that it wasn't worth the hassle to try
Which
to rewrite
page
it.
is it on?
And and I don't remember.
Here we
because I
are.
didn't actually mark it
I
up
think
for
I found
myself.
it. All right, so this was part of the rural section, and it says some rural communities that do not already have universal collection are questioning the presumption that universal collection and organic materials processed in rural areas is the most cost-effective way to achieve a net reduction in greenhouse gas emissions.
So this was, now I'm remembering, I actually suggested that we take out that sentence and it was taken out, which is why it's not in here anymore.
Okay.
And I totally forgot that I did that. Yeah, the transportation sentence.
Yeah.
So we're done.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've got it. There's Ted and I are going to take just these yellow parts. We're going to make those little changes and tweaks that align. We're going to send out an email to all of you saying, this is it. This is the final document. Double, triple check everything and give us final comments by close of business Thursday. So he and I can send this out on Friday. And then everybody will have it and we'll CC you when we send it. So you've got everything we send out publicly so you all see it and you can literally take it and forward it, massage it, whatever you'd like to do with it. So congratulations, commissioners. You got your first report done, the first official report. Okay, so we're going to move very quickly now on to update and review of the legislation. And the only thing I just want to highlight is next week, the big discussion is going to be on SB 343 and Assembly Natural Resources on Wednesday morning. If any of you would like to weigh in, I will be testifying on that along with, I think, someone from another hauling company, and I don't want to get all into that too much. But if you'd like to weigh in on that, that's one of our primary things is the Chasing Arrows. I think that is going to be a big debate, and actually New York State also introduced the same bill. So we've got other states that are now chasing this Chasing Arrows problem down. Are there any other comments on legislation that you wanted to bring up outside of what was on that spreadsheet? Okay, then I think we can go ahead because that is still, there's a lot in play on legislation. It's not over yet. So everyone just keep your eyes on that ball, and we can move to agenda item number 7, which is discussion of how we're going to disseminate and promote this report by commissioners. And I talked to Commissioner Ward about this since we're doing so much on the report. Here's my general thinking on this, and you guys can all weigh in. When he and I send the email out, well, actually, I'll send it out with the vice chair, but I'll probably prep it with Commissioner Ward because he's been working with me on the report. We'll send it out to all of you and to the whole world, and everybody in the public can also send it out. No, anybody is available to, it's public information. So if you would all like to disseminate this, put your own spin on it, I guess the only thing I would be careful of is, as a commissioner who voted for the recommendations in this report and voted for every word in it, is that if you say anything that were to be contrary to the report, you're basically being contrary to yourself, because this was something we all developed together as a team with consensus, which I think everyone, including all of us, has marveled that we've accomplished. But just be careful on how you frame things, because we did this together and everybody's thumbprint is on this. So I would just say go forth and have at it. Everybody can just share it as you will. And I encourage you to do so. There's nothing holding any of us back from, you know, speaking about it in public or being on a panel about it and speaking from, you know, your voice. But just remember, you don't speak for the commission unless it's in the report, something that we all voted on. Otherwise, you just speak from your own personal position. Are there any other thoughts on that, or did you want us to have go beyond that? I was thinking of sending it out to my press list and making sure that went out very broadly. I can do that with the vice chair. We can jointly send out emails to the media and make sure the whole world knows about this. We could also, you know, I don't have time right now to do another op-ed or anything like that, unless it also takes resources and money to pay somebody to help us do it. Any other thoughts on that?
I fully
Good?
support widespread dissemination, and however anybody can get these policies out in discussion. And I just want to comment, I think it's kind of amazing. We've had 12 months, 25 meetings, and we've got 30 policies. That's kind of astounding. Good job, everybody.
Agreed. Okay, well, I'll go ahead and close this discussion. So everybody, please feel free to get it out there. I think what we heard from Secretary Jared Blumenfeld when he was speaking with us, he said, use your voices. So I'll take that and we can all use our voices. Agenda item 8, moving on, is agenda items for future meetings and discussion of future meetings. Our first question is, I think we've all agreed we are not going to meet again until September, and that we want to go from 2 meetings a month to 1 meeting a month. Does everybody agree with that, or is there anyone who does not agree with that? For the full commission, to 1 meeting a month. Okay, so we have consensus on that. So then the question is, do you want to stick to Wednesdays and first or third Wednesdays of the month? Does anybody have a preference to which Wednesdays, or if you wanted to change the day altogether, it was too hard for you to make these meetings? I don't see any hands or any comments. So I'm going to propose, and I think Commissioner Ward, you preferred the second Wednesday. I'm good with that too, because that gives us a little longer summer break. And I think that's when the legislature's going to be really ripping. Unless there's other thoughts on that, do you want to, so we come back on September, is it the 15th or the 16th? And then the question is, how many hours?
Yeah, the second Wednesday is the 8th.
15th.
Oh, the second is the 8th. You're right. Absolutely right.
I'm sorry, the third. We wanted to do, or we could change Wednesdays. We've been doing first and third. Does that work?
Second Wednesday does not work for me.
The second does not work for you? Okay. Well, I think we've stuck with this and it's worked pretty well, the first and third. Why don't we just do the third Wednesdays, if that works for everybody? Third Wednesday?
Then we're going to change the market development committee because it would meet that Monday. So just for those on the market development committee.
Yeah, I need plenty of time for the notice. Okay.
I think the third Wednesday on September is the 22nd. I believe there's a trip scheduled for then, right? Just wanted to highlight that for you.
Well, no, the third is the 15th.
The 15th? The 15th.
So yes, we leave that following Sunday. So the 15th, I think we're open. And then the 20th of October, 17th of November, and the 15th of December. I will be on a cruise, but we all might want to move that one up to earlier in the month, like the 8th anyway, just to have more holiday. But we can talk about that later. So why don't we plan on now, at least the next, actually we can do it now. We could do the third Wednesday through September through November. And then if you'd like, you can either choose to do it on December 15th or do it December 8th and be done with it for the year. Are you guys okay with the 8th? Okay, so let's book December 8th being the oddball. And then we'll just book those months and then we can discuss after that how far we go out. Okay, and then how many hours of a day?
Heidi, I think, just for Laura that's on here, Laura, I think we have something on the 15th. That is an industry meeting.
Oh, the trash bash?
No, it's the CRs, the new CRRC meeting on the 12th.
So that would be good if we move it to the 8th, December 8th.
Well, it's on September 15th, I think. Laura would know better.
Yeah, September 15th.
Which was going to be a conflict with our existing schedule anyway, huh?
Yeah.
Through the chair?
Yeah.
Going back to John, for the chairs of the various subcommittees, could you send an update of your meeting schedule starting in September?
It's going to go on the website. As soon as we agree, the staff will put it right up there too. And they'll resend you the right links for your calendar, I believe.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes, because we're running out of time. We got 6 minutes.
I think for the next agenda, we should talk about what subcommittees we should have and
Yes.
who wants to be in which committee, because, we made the decisions at the very beginning and
Okay. I
it's a really
first
good
wanted
work
to
product.
finish.
But
I totally agree. So we'll get to actually what's on the next meeting. As soon as we finish this all, we've got, it sounds like a conflict with several of you if we do the third Wednesday in September. Is that correct?
Correct.
That's too bad. Is it the whole morning?
The whole day for me.
It's the whole day. Yeah, it's scheduled.
Okay, then maybe we do, and seconds don't work. So maybe we do go with the first Wednesday of every month. Does that work for everybody through December?
I love it. Then I don't have council meetings that go till midnight the night before.
Awesome. All right. So we've agreed. So we're going to do the first Wednesday of every month for the next 6 months and get that on the books. And the question now is, do you want 3 hours, 4 hours? I personally think 4 hours are just a bit too long. And if we do 3, but we're condensing 2 meetings, 3. Okay. I see 3 with 10-minute breaks for sure. So why don't we do, and 9 to noon seem to work pretty well for everybody. Have more time for coffee. Okay, so we're going to do first Wednesdays, 9 to noon through December, starting in September. Awesome. And then committee chairs, for now, go ahead and set your meetings. I would for the next 6 months, and then if things change at the next meeting, which is I think what Commissioner Lapis was bringing up, we will definitely put on the first agenda for September that one of the first discussions we're going to have, I would think the first thing is going to be about the report and any response we've had. We'll do that. And then 2 would be committees. What are we going to do now? So looking back, what happened with the report, what press did we get, all that discussion, probably legislation. We'll probably want to get an update on that, right? And then 3rd would be the committees and what we're going to do with do we want to keep the same committees? Do we want to keep the same assignments?
and hopefully CalRecycle can appoint a replacement for Eric by that meeting as well. It'll be a good place for a new person to start, or a good time for a new person to start.
That's a good point. Anything else for the first agenda to start our second year off?
I wonder if we might want to have a presentation on circular economy from Ellen MacArthur Foundation, since that's a big topic and it explodes into a lot of areas.
Would anybody be interested in that? I certainly would. I can certainly try to find somebody who's an expert or somebody from the MacArthur Foundation that might help spur that discussion, if that's of interest. I think, thumbs up.
Well, at the same time, I think I'd like to have an NGO, give a counterbalance on some of that too, because we don't all agree with all of what's in the new plastics economy, including the basis for a lot of it.
Yeah, and that's a bigger discussion. So that could be like an hour and a half, honestly. Is that how you want to take up like the first, an entire half of our first meeting back? I have a feeling there's going to be a lot to report out and discuss on committee assignments and stuff. Would we be okay? Can we do that, Commissioner Davis, maybe discuss that at the September meeting and maybe move it to October?
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Okay. October, circular economy. Anything else? Okay, we've got 2 minutes. So we've got basically the outline of an agenda for the next meeting. I would like to have a report from CalRecycle on the budget and what's going to happen with that $130 million. So is that okay if I ask for them to give us an update on what they plan to do? No? Commissioner Dunleavy, you're shaking your head?
Yeah, I think they should just cover that at their monthly meeting. I mean, I just don't see taking commission time on that.
Okay.
Well, if their proposal, one of their proposals is to create a new office of basically market development, I forget the term they're using. And if that does get created, then I do think we should talk about how we can coordinate with that office.
Yeah. That innovation, I think it has in the title.
Yeah.
Innovation. Okay, well, how about if I just leave, it's part of the legislation and statewide update or something. I'll just kind of put it all in one agenda item. And then if there's anything to report, fine. If not, that's fine too. All right, well, we're literally at time. I'm gonna summarize by saying thank you for the honor of being your chair. Thank you for all being such a joy to work with. This is really hard. Everybody's done an amazing job. And I know Commissioner Valle and I could not be more proud of this group. And Commissioner Ward, thank you 1,000 times over for doing the yeoman's bit of work on that report. And to all of you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Have a nice summer, and we'll look forward to seeing you back September 1st. All right?
Thank you, Heidi.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.